Hello there, welcome to a beautiful Wednesday morning. As always, we're here to serve. Bernice Abubedu Lanza and yours truly. We call this the AM show. Thank you wherever you are for making the company. And it's interesting. I know people from the United States, France, Germany, all of you wake up to catch this show at different times of the day. To you, we say thank you. On that note, let's settle for what we have planned for you. The first, we're going to be serving you the news, and right after that, we'll be joined by political scientist, director for the Center for European Studies, Dr. Asah-Asante, for the news review. But from there, we get into our big stories, and the very first we're contemplating. President Akufo-Addo has made changes to his government. Would you believe it? This comes out a month after former Trades Minister Alan Kyerematen and Agric Minister Dr. Owusu Afriyie-Akoto resigned to focus on their respective political campaigns. And it gets even more interesting. K.T. Hammond will replace Alan Kyerematen as Trades Minister. Dr. Stephen Amwa will be his deputy. Brian Echampong, yes, his name popped up. He is the new Agric Minister with Mohammed Amin Adam, who was stationed at the Energy Ministry as Deputy Minister now, becoming a Minister of State at the Finance Ministry. We also have Stephen Asamoah Boateng, who in the last election of the MPP had was full of complaints. He is going to head the Ministry for Chieftaincy and Religious Affairs. Herbert Krapper, Deputy Trades Minister formerly, switches to the Energy Ministry as Deputy Minister Designate. We also have Osei Bonsu-Amwa, who has been appointed Minister of State at the Local Government and Rural Development Ministry. Speaker of Parliament, Alban Bagbin, therefore directed Finance Minister Ken Ofori-Atta to put the domestic debt exchange program before Parliament and brief the House on it. That's the second angling to this story that we're going to be debating. Now, to help us look at those two angles, Dr. Dixon Adumaku-Kisi is Member of Parliament for Anyaso Utum. He'll be joining us right here. And as always, we also have Roxanne Nelson Dafiamekbo, Member of Parliament for South Dine. It appears most of the time when we have him, we also have Roxanne. Well, today they'll feature once more. Also on the show, we speak to former Lands and Natural Resources Minister Inusa Fuseni. He also is a former Member of Parliament for Tamale Central and a stalwart of the opposition, NDC. We'll be discussing topical issues with him from within his party and things happening in this country. But today happens to be a Wednesday, and you definitely know we're going to be bringing you, courtesy of EcoBank, the Pan-African Bank, AM Business. Today, some commercial and private drivers are unhappy about what they describe as a cumbersome vehicle insurance acquisition process. That report airs later on the show. But like I always say, the show is all about you. So share your thoughts with us. The hashtag is AMShow in the course of our live stream. And at the tail end, be sure to give us a call. Up next, the news. Do stay. Thank you for staying. Let's serve you the news now. And in our first story, more than 500 individual pension bondholders have intensified calls for a total exemption from the domestic debt exchange program. The Finance Minister, Ken Ofori-Atta, in his update on the economy on Monday, emphasized government's offer of a 15% coupon rate at a 5-year maturity period to individual pension bondholders, urging the bondholders to sign on to the deal. But the group has rejected the offer. They have been picketing at the Ministry of Finance to press home their demands for a total exemption. James Kwesi Aveji reports.
The group set a solemn tone for the day 2 of their picketing with chant of various patriotic songs to drum home their demand. Total exemption, total exemption. When one of them took to the microphone, he described how their members are dying not from the barrel of the gun, but from an investment gone bad, an investment in which their trusted partner, government, has failed to meet its end of the bargain.
We are here, and we are veterans. Why are some of us, even as we speak, because of desperation, fear, having strokes, and some dying? Blood is still being shed. I want us to remind ourselves of what happened 75 years ago. and remind ourselves of what is happening now. We are still pleading with His Excellency, and now with the Minister of Finance, Ken Oforata, to consider the total exempts.
Another pensioner said they are where they are today because government has allegedly smuggled a clause into the second Debt Exchange Amendment Bill, which has disarmed them from having an equal say on the terms of exchange program.
There is a clause that states categorically that the Republic of Ghana, of course, through the Ministry of Finance, reserve the right to amend the coupon, to extend the maturity date. And you are saying that you can change the coupon at your own discretion without resorting to me. You can extend the date, the maturity date, without resorting to me. You can change all the commercial terms. And this you would not want it to come to the public.
As they retire home from the second day of fighting for their money to no avail, they had one more message for government.
You are on stroke. The drugs have been given to you that every day, take this, take that. You say, I don't have money, so I'm going to take it every week. You will die. Any disease that you have, that they have prescribed drug for, if you don't get the sufficient money to buy that drug, you will die. And if that is what the government wants us to go through and die, a clear statement should be made that regardless of what we are doing, we will do it. And if we want to die, die.
The group returns Wednesday to continue picketing and fighting for their money. James Kwesiaviji's report read to you.
Meanwhile, Speaker of Parliament Alban Sumana Kingsford Bagman has directed Finance Minister Ken Ofori-Atta to put the details of the domestic debt exchange program before the House for consideration.
Honourable members, my understanding is that both sides agree that the minister be scheduled to come and brief the House, policy statement, and some details about the debt arrangements. Parliament is ever prepared to assist government to get out of this quagmire. And so what I can say now is that, like the church says, Roma locuta, causa finita est. Parliament has spoken, and that is the end of the case. The minister be scheduled by the business committee as early as possible, because this is an urgent matter. If the pensioners are picketing at the ministry, we need to do this as quickly as possible. I can say that by Tuesday next week. Tuesday next week. This week is quite packed, and so Tuesday next week will be appropriate. Even though we have some business to on Tuesday, I insist that it should be on Tuesday. We'll have to find time for the minister, because this is a very urgent matter, particularly dealing with elderly people. We have to find time for the minister to give us a brief.
Now, President Akufo-Addo has responded to the calls for him to reshuffle his government with what many have described as a replacement for ministers who have resigned rather than a reshuffle. In a letter to the Speaker of Parliament, Alban Bagman, President Akufo-Addo replaced Alad Chemating, who resigned as Trade and Industry Minister, with Adansi Asokwa Member of Parliament, Katie Hammond. Here is the Speaker of Parliament announcing the list.
Dr. Amin Adam is currently the Deputy Minister of Energy, responsible for petroleum sector and Member of Parliament for Karaga. Before coming into mainstream politics, he was with energy think tank African Center for Energy Policy and later became its executive director. Dr. Amin Adam has worked extensively in the extractive industries and resource management as a senior lecturer advisor to several governments on the continent, as well as resource governance and a campaigner for transparency in resource management around the world. Dr. Amin Adam has also worked as the Executive Director of the Public Utilities and Regulatory Commission. He was also the Deputy Minister of State for the Northern Region and Mayor of Tamale. In terms of education, he holds the Bachelor of Arts from the University of Cape Coast. Dr. Amin Adam holds PhD in Petroleum Economics from University of Dundee in UK, specializing in petroleum fiscal system. He also holds an MPhil and BA Honors Economics from the University of Cape Coast and is also a Fellow of the Institute of Certified Economists of Ghana. Dr. Amin Adam, by his designation, will be the next senior person at the ministry after Ken Ofori-Atta and will be responsible for taking some very important decisions if Ken Ofori-Atta is not around. With the current push by the public for the minister to step aside, could Dr. Amin Adam be the next Minister of Finance? Well, for KT Hammond, he is currently the Member of Parliament for Adansi Asokwa in the Ashanti region and has served as a minister during ex-President Kufuor administration. In terms of his education, he is the product of the University of Ghana, where he holds a Bachelor of Arts in Law and Political Science. He is also a product of Gray's Inn Holborn Law School, London. From there, he acquired a Bachelor of Law in 1991. KT Hammond's immediate task will be how to effectively implement government's industrialization agenda, including the One District, One Factory, and what policies can be put in place to support industries in the country.
An Italian-based Ghanaian woman on holiday is alleged to have been murdered by a neighbor at Buokrom in the Ashanti region on Monday. The deceased, known only as Ma Akosi, was allegedly stabbed by her 20-year-old neighbor, Befi, who has often visited the deceased. Eyewitnesses say they saw the suspect jump out of a window in the victim's apartment to flee the scene after allegedly committing the crime. Nana Yaujima visited the scene and filed this report.
At the time of Love News' visit, the suspect in handcuffs has been brought to his house, which sits directly opposite that of the deceased. The police led him into the residence as part of investigations. Some visibly angry residents attempted pouncing on the suspect. A neighbor speaks of the relationship between the suspect and deceased. She clothes and feeds the suspect anytime she's in the country. He comes here always. He is like a grandson to her. The deceased is a very good friend of the suspect's grandmother. The deceased, Marcos, in her late 50s, lived in an apartment on the second floor of a two-story building. It is believed the suspect went through a window that leads to the apartment of the deceased to gain access to her. Residents say the suspect attempted breaking into the apartment weeks back, but the issues were resolved. An eyewitness says he was drawn to the scene after hearing noise that suggested a tussle in the apartment. The alarmed residents broke into the room to find the woman in a pool of blood.
And I'm just a struggle. To me buy me come by now. Or maybe or modo and so don't me as my friend first. No response.
I heard some people struggling in her room from my hall. I called her, but she didn't answer. When I came to her door, I knocked twice and she didn't respond. I had to call other tenants to help me break into the room. We could still hear them struggle. One tenant peeped through the window and saw blood. So we had to intensify efforts to break into the room. We entered to find a pool of blood, but the body wasn't there. We later found the body hidden in the bathroom.
For the meantime, this area and about share anymore. You try quite more no be no. Tiasaba now she's a body need a bathroom.
The suspect, Befi, was subsequently arrested by some residents who tracked him from the scene after pulling a gun to aid his escape. Police continue to investigate the matter. For JoyNews, Nana Yaujima, Kumasi.
Operations Director for the Digital Film School Africa, Samuel Kojo-Asamoah, says as part of efforts in building the potential of African youth in the filming industry, focus must be centered on providing education in the digital space. He says the newly launched Digital Film School sets out to take advantage of the opportunities in Africa with the use of the virtual space to enhance film and digital education in Africa. There's more in the following report by Elisha Panford. Read to you.
School Africa, Samuel Kojo-Asamoah, indicated that the school will be training the youth in general filmmaking and some specialized areas in its space. He revealed there are countless opportunities in Africa which are not utilized, especially in the film industry.
What we intend to do in this project is to take advantage of the virtual space to increase access to film education using the virtual space. So this project has come about as a result of the fact that there is an opportunity in the virtual space, and we think that looking at the huge opportunities we have, the demographic badge we have in Africa, we can take advantage of it and train more young filmmakers. And we are giving every young filmmaker the chance to get trained in specialized film or filmmaking. Young filmmakers can submit their films in international film festivals. Young filmmakers can raise issues in their community. Using film as a tool, I want to be honest with you, a camera in the hand of a young filmmaker is a great asset if it is well exploited.
Director of the Center for Creative Arts of the African University College of Communications, Nana Echampong, also admonished Ghanaian filmmakers to take advantage to enhance their careers.
We're focusing on giving skills and then immersing it in the industry. So we have industry persons mentoring and instructing, and it's very, very practical based. We're hoping that a lot more Ghanaian filmmakers who do not have any credentials can come polish up their skills and then at least get a certificate at the end to show that they also have been there. But those people that have been trying to move the film forward and have been having problems, they've all come together, we join forces, and then we're introducing all the ideas that they had with the support of those who are sponsoring to give these skills out. So now it's like all things are coming together, and it's really exciting times there.
On his part, a newly admitted student of the school shared his first month experience with JoyNews.
So I joined with the notion of wanting to understand the standard principles of documentary filmmaking, and I didn't have too much high expectations for joining this, right? I thought it was going to be the normal Ghanaian style of school. Definitely, this is going to have. I think this is actually going to jumpstart my career. It's nothing like I ever imagined would and could happen to me in Ghana. It's a beautiful place to be.
The newly launched initiative is being undertaken by the African University College of Communications and the National Council of Ghana Young Men Christian Association.
Thank you for staying with us for the news. That's how we cap it off. But up next, the news review. Stay. Welcome back once more, and let me say we apologize for that. I'm sure you noticed that when I came on earlier, the sound wasn't clear enough, so we had to rectify that and ensure that you could hear every bit of the conversation. We're hosting political scientist and director for the Center for European Studies at the University of Ghana, Dr. Kwame Asah-Asante. I see him in the background, my former lecturer. Good morning to you, sir.
Good morning, Ben. How are you, my brother? I'm
very well. Sorry for the hold-up, a bit of a technical glitch, but it's now sorted out.
I understand.
Great.
Yeah.
We don't have that much time, so let's make tracks. We'll start with the Daily Graphic newspaper. President makes ministerial changes. 4 new nominees, 2 elevated, 1 reshuffled. Reshuffle na ba na. That's what many people are asking. There's also domestic debt exchange, scheduled finance minister to brief Parliament, Speaker directs. We'll be talking to you about that in our first big story today. Ghanaians recount experiences in Turkey earthquake, or Turkey, as we popularly know that country. Christian Achu rescued, and our hearts were in our mouths, but thankfully, God has been so gracious. Christian Achu is still with us, and we bless the Lord for him. Bondholders offered administrative window to tender. Again, that is going to feed into our first big story for today. You don't want to miss that one. But let's get into the details now. In terms of the reshuffle, so to speak, by the president. President Akufo-Addo has submitted to Parliament the names of ministers and deputy ministers with changes that comprise reshuffles, elevations, replacements, new faces, and the filling of vacuums created by the resignation of 3 ministers. The list, which was read out in Parliament on the first day of its third sitting yesterday, had the Member of Parliament for Adansi Asokwa and former Deputy Minister of Energy, Kobina Tahiru Hammond, nominated for the Ministry of Trade and Industry. He will replace Alan Chemating, who resigned last month to concentrate on his bid to lead the New Patriotic Party as its flag bearer in the 2024 election. In the list, read out by the Speaker, Alban Sumana Kingsford Bagbin, the Abetifi MP and former Minister of State at the Presidency, Brian Echampong, has been nominated to replace Dr. Usu Efri-Akoto as the Minister of Food and Agriculture, while the immediate past Director General of the State Interest and Governance Authority, Stephen Asamoah Boateng, takes over as Minister of Chieftaincy and Religious Affairs, replacing Ebenezer Kojokum, who resigned last week on grounds of health. Let's just take a look at a few more. I'll not go to the legal elements in there, but there's also an elevation of a Deputy Minister of Energy, Dr. Mohammed Amin Adam, who is the MP for Karaga as a Minister of State at the Ministry of Finance, to replace Charles Edubuahen. And there has been talk since yesterday, Doc, about the fact that when you look at Dr. Amin Adam, he has a purely economics background, though, I mean, he's even a member of The Economist in Ghana, certified. And some have been wondering whether this is a sort of move, because if you look at it now, Ken Ofori-Atta is the arrowhead, and right beneath him, so to speak, you would have Dr. Amin Adam. Whether this is a futuristic plan so that when eventually Ofori-Atta knocks off, Amin Adam would take over, that's a question that has been posed. But just to wrap with the few others so you can give me your reflections. A Deputy Minister of Local Government, Decentralization and Rural Development and MP for Ipiapim South, Osei-Bonsu Amwa, has been elevated as a Minister of State at the same ministry, while a Deputy Minister of Trade and Industry, Herbert Krapper, my good friend, has now been reassigned as a Deputy Minister of Energy to replace Dr. Adam, with the MP for Nshaeso, Dr. Stephen Amwa, heading for the Ministry of Trade and Industry as a Deputy Minister. We all know him as Sticker, Member of Parliament for Nshaeso. Quick reflections on this seeming reshuffle. I say seeming because it is replacing people who have knocked off, and one elevation, and then we also have those people coming in. What is your reflection on what has happened, Doc?
Yeah, thank you, Ben. Let me clear a certain misconception. People think that there's no reshuffle. It is. In strict political science terms, it is. What is reshuffle? Where some people resign office, or somebody resigns from office, and there should be a replacement. It's a reshuffle. Where there is death, there is a replacement. There is a reshuffle. Where the president wants to change people and to put them into different positions, move them from one ministry to another. It's a reshuffle. Where there is scandal, and for which reason you want to bring somebody in to sanitize the system, that's a reshuffle. So in strict political science terms, it is reshuffle. But as to whether it is meeting the interest of the public, that is the crust of the matter. And that is what we are looking at. If you look at it...
So just a quick intervention. So assuming none of this had happened, but one minister had left office and another person had been brought in, would that also qualify as a reshuffle?
Yes, it is.
Right.
It is.
Right.
It is.
Do go ahead.
If you look at others, one would have expected that Mr. President, given the situation, the economic condition we find ourselves, you would have reduced the size of government. The government size is too, high, and it goes with cost. We need to pay these ministers, and we don't have the resource. People will tell you that, oh, how much? It's not significant. Remember that little drops makes the ocean. So even if it's $1, all right, we need to save that because we are in difficult times. Two, so when you look at it, the president didn't reduce the size, maintain the same size, and that is worrying. Worrying in the sense that it's the same government that is encouraging bondholders, pensioners, and then labor groups to be with the government, as in assist in the debt negotiations and all that. So they were expecting their contribution in a positive direction to safeguard the economy of this country. Why are they preaching virtues and practicing vice? That, for me, is worrying, because then the government is not sending good signals, all right? People have complained about what? Waste in the system. We want to see a manifestation of that in terms of government policy. There must be a clear-cut policy direction, and that leads to what? Cutting of waste. That leads to what? Unnecessary expenditure thrown away. That leads to what? Downsizing government. So all these things are prudent measures that we need to undertake in order to save the economy. But here you are, government will preach orders and government will not do what is expected of them. So that is unfortunate. Even though it is important that for constitutional requirements' sake, you need to have the ministers. I'm talking about the ministers for agriculture, trade and industry. That one, there is no problem about that. But the deputy, I disagree, and I disagree with respect, in the sense that you can what? Make do with the bureaucrats who will support the ministry to exist. Let us remember that the real, spade work is done by the bureaucrats who assist regimes from time to time. Government may come, government may go, but the public servant remain permanent in office, and they serve every government, irrespective of their political color and all that. So there is no point. The huge size of government is really affecting us. If you look at existing democracies, such as Britain, where they have paid ministers less than, I think, 130 or so, and you compare it to even the sub-region, Nigeria, they have ministers, numbers are in the 40s, all right? Why are we having such a huge...
I keep going back to the Malawian example, Lazarus Chakwera. He had, 31 ministers? He's downsized it into the 20s.
Yes.
And we have, 110 thereabouts?
Yes, and I'm saying we can even reduce it to 19. 19, that is what the Constitution says, that cabinet should be made of 19. My proposal is that you can have the 19, and then the 19, 16 would double as what? Ministers for regions. So each of the region, there is a minister who's a cabinet minister who heads the region and heads what? Another portfolio. So that the other three, you add them, and then you get your 19. Why can't you govern with this? But all these things you can understand. It's nothing but job for the boys within the party. But you don't govern like that. No, that you are always looking at the interest of your party vis-a-vis the interest of the state. No, that doesn't work that way. It creates problems. And I want government to know that it is in their own interest to reduce the size of government, cut waste, ensure that expenditure is kept at the lowest level so as they can raise enough revenue to support the economy, because you need to fix the economy if you really want to contest in the elections, because the factors that influence voter choices, number one, is the economy. Voters consider the economy as the first most important variable when they are making political choices during election. And out of the economy, a lot of things also develop. We are talking about infrastructure development, which is a requirement by the Constitution, and is also one of the second variable which is important to a voter in this country, that they want to have what? Infrastructure dotted around the country and want to have their fair share, irrespective of wherever they live. So if you fail in infrastructure development, I'm afraid they are going to punish you for that. Not only that, issue of employment, which is about fourth important variable, is also critical to the voter, because there are a lot of people who have gone through academic training and yet can't find jobs or meaningful jobs and the rest of them. So you need to fix the economy. Everything is dependent on the economy. So the economy must be fixed if the party want to stay afloat. But my surprise and worry is that you have Council of Elders within the NPP, and you have well-meaning Ghanaians within the NPP. Nobody gets up and tell Mr. President that, yeah, Mr. President, we respect your decision, but we think that this one, we disagree. It can affect the fortunes of the party. Somebody must muster the courage and speak to the president in a very healthy manner and tell him what is ahead.
But the question is, will he listen? Will he listen?
Yeah, you have to make the attempt.
A lot of people have said, you suggest certain things. You remember, Mr. President himself has said that, even in terms of the reshuffle, that it is either his detractors who want his governments to fail, who are pushing for a reshuffle, or people who themselves want positions in his government within his party who are pushing for it. And when a leader sounds like that, most people have said he doesn't even want to listen. So to what end?
Yeah, that is why you need a Council of State. They don't need any other appointment. They don't need promotion. They don't need anything. They are the heart and souls of the party, all right? And that when they speak, the president must listen, all right? Yes, that is what. That is why we set
but
up
you
the
see,
Council
that's
of
where
State,
another problem
the Council
is.
of Elders.
The Council of State,
Council of Elders.
Doc, if you can hear me, the Council of State only has a consultative role. The president is not bound to listen to them. So there you say.
No, I made a mistake. I'm not talking about Council of State. I'm talking
about
Council of Elders within the party.
Okay, you mentioned the Council of State. That's why I went.
No, I'm sorry. It's about Council of Elders within the MPP. They don't need any appointment. They don't need anything. They are there to serve their party. The party interest is
but
paramount
even
to
there,
them.
the president is not bound to listen to them.
Yes, advice is never compulsory, but that a good counsel is always good, and that is why we always go for wise counsel. So if there is a president and who doesn't want to listen to advice, then I'm afraid he doesn't want to leave any legacy. Because take it or leave it, 2024, MPP legacy will come to question. What is it that they can show to the world that they have been able to manage and manage well for the second tenure, for which reason the people should renew their mandate? That question will come to them. So it is about time they took critical decision now and then avert those dangers ahead.
Right.
Because they are not in good times at all.
We're not in good times at all. Let's and even speaking of those good times, I sometimes always reflect on our tax and levy system and what we get in return. Every country, sometimes you talk about how high taxes and levies are, and people will say, yes, but that is how the developed countries have made it. But the question is, when we take all these sums of money, yesterday I ended up at the DHL office, and trust me, some of what I saw made me, there are people who can't get a woman with a child, a baby at her back, was it a phone or so? And if you look at the cost of the phone and the charges that have been meted out to her, mind you, the EVAT has taken over 15.5% or so. In addition, you can have someone bringing in a product that is, say, 6,000 plus cedis, and the tax component, customs duty and everything is about 3,000 cedis, about half the price of the item. I saw another elderly woman there who had items for her I didn't know, and similar situation. So we're forking out so much money to give to the state. Customs, duty, this and that. If you look at the taxes in there, they will drive you crazy. Yet, what are my roads like? Do I have access to hospitals? When I even get access to a hospital, will I get a bed? No bed syndrome, still live. Look at our schools, Ghana schools of shame. No desks. Our little ones on the floor like lizards. If I had a fire incident, what is the likelihood that the fire service would get to me and salvage the situation before a major disaster? If you were to call the Ghana police in the dead of the night, would they be able to get to you to prevent you from getting robbed? You see, these are the questions. We're being taxed out of, our pockets, and yet So I really don't know. For this country, as you reflect and say things are not what they ought to be, I think we're so far from what we ought to be, especially when we're getting so much, willing to give out so much, and we end up with a debt exchange program and everything else. But
Ben, sometimes some of these things is self-inflicting, all right? We have been to a certain level of nonchalant attitude on our part that we don't care a hoot about the way our country is governed. That's a problem, because vigilance is the price of liberty.
You mean we are being too lenient on our leaders?
Exactly, and that we don't care a hoot, and we struggle to criticize and all that. We are not saying that insult, no. But look, government business is not a private business. So when somebody is running on your behalf, you have every right to what? A voice, let your voice be on the matter. Be civil, be measured, but then speak your mind. What happens? All right? Because if the person mismanages the system, you end up in IMF World Bank. And that is where we don't want to go. I find it strange sometimes some of the policies of government, and ask myself, to what end? You are not going to achieve anything. And yet, government will not listen, One of the problems also is that when we are voting, we consider other things, other peripheral issues, as opposed to what very important issues that determine who should really lead the country. We vote based on ethnicity, based on what party affiliation and whatnot, and leave out the real issues as to whether those we are going to put into office, they have what it takes to be in office.
Right.
I'm sure we have learned a lot, and going forward, we will think critically before we give our vote to anybody.
Let's quickly wrap with the daily graphic. We'll make it right in time. So on page 13, schedule Finance Minister to brief Parliament. That's the directive of the Speaker, Alban Bagbin, and he has directed the Business Committee of Parliament to schedule Finance Minister Ken Ofori-Atta to appear before the House to brief members on the affairs of the domestic debt exchange program. So that is going to happen. Interestingly, it sort of coincides with the day when the main schedule or activity for the rollout of the DDEP is to take place. Ghanaians recount experiences in Turkey earthquake, Christian Achu rescued, and the point to be made in the story, and like I heard it yesterday, was that maybe he made the headlines because of his status as an international footballer, but there are others, many other Ghanaians, some permanently living in that country, and others are students who have shared stories of how they experienced the earthquake, which also hit Syria, and has so far reportedly claimed more than 6,000 lives. I listened to a report on the BBC that said that in the end, this could cost us some 20,000 lives. And this wouldn't be the first time. In the 90s, there was another earthquake like that, which took about 25,000 lives. And already the forecast is up to about 20,000 lives. But let me wrap with the daily graphic. Two stories. Bondholders offered administrative window to tender, and the government has created an administrative window to enable bondholders to complete the tender process following what the Finance Ministry described as technical glitches. The window will last until Friday, February 10 this year to enable all eligible bondholders who are unable to complete the process to do so. Those are the stories I want you to reflect on, but I'll just add this. Consume more cocoa. Kojo Ponkroma, Information Minister, says so. Good call, Kojo, but I have a question for you. Have you checked the price of cocoa products on the market? Your thoughts, Doc?
Yes, I'll start with cocoa because my parents were cocoa farmers and I've worked as a boy under cocoa farms for years. It has been the mainstay of this economy, and that if you look at regime by regime, we have not done ourselves good. When President Kufuor was in office, he visited Creek and had a lot of products from cocoa. I asked myself, what has happened? Are we ready to make sure that we roll that program where they've turned cocoa beans into so many things that will bring us money, value addition? This government touts its credentials of being able to come out with 1D, 1F, and the rest of them. What has happened to that project? Cocoa alone, I can say without fear of contradiction, can cure unemployment in this country. Cocoa giving us chocolate, pebbles, toffee, soup, and whatnot. But we have paid lip service to cocoa. And now we are even cutting cocoa trees to undertake what Galamsey, which government has turned a blind eye to that. It's a very unfortunate. So when the minister is saying that we should consume cocoa, I know his area where he comes from. My uncle has a cocoa farm there. Yes, it's a good call, but my question is, will his government master the courage to deal with those who destroy cocoa farms? Because the cocoa must exist in order to get the beans and produce chocolate. And now cocoa farms are being threatened. I want the minister to reflect on that and get that basis right, so that once we get that, all of us will come on board and support the court. But for now, I'm afraid we are doing a disservice. We are destroying cocoa farms, and government is sitting aloof as if nothing is happening.
Right.
I am worried. I am worried.
Let's quickly get to the Ghanaian Times. Oh, you have other reflections.
Yes,
go ahead.
I want to look at Turkey. It's a very, a very difficult situation. Our hearts go to those families who have lost their people and all that. It's a sad. I also have a friend. We attended a program in the US. I called her a few days ago. She's alive, and we thank God. We pray with them, and it is our hope and prayer that the good Lord will protect them and then prevent these things from reoccurring. Right.
Thank you for your reflections there. The Ghanaian Times reflects most of what we've already read from the Daily Graphic, but some standout stories. NPP communicators in Bono region boycott radio discussions. Why? The Bono regional communicators of the New Patriotic Party say they have boycotted all radio discussions in the region in connection with the deplorable condition of the Buokrom Yahwima Road in the Sunyani municipality. A statement signed by Mr. Asuma Salia, the chairman of the Bono Regional Communicators of the NPP, and copied to the Ghana News Agency in Sunyani, therefore asked the government to reshape the roads and spare them, that is the communicators, of insults from residents. That's the first story there on page 9 of the Ghanaian Times newspaper. On that same page, provide guidance to guarantee 2024 victory. Council of Elders urges the Minority Caucus, and the NDC has urged leadership to provide the guidance that will guarantee a resounding victory for the party in the 2024 elections. What I'll wrap with: Auditor General recovers 2.2 billion Ghana cedis for state from disallowed expenditures. No surcharges. The Auditor General has recovered 2.2 billion Ghana cedis. It's quite a bit, but let me just say 2.2 billion of the 4.7 billion Ghana cedis it disallowed and recommended for recovery during the 2017 to 2020 audit exercises. Additionally, the service saved the state a total of 145 million from the special payroll verifications audit of September 30, 2020. That's 2022. This was contained in a special audit report on the recoveries made from disallowed expenditure from 2017 to 2020 and payroll savings. Quick reflections?
Yeah, I will look at the Auditor General's report. Yes, that aspect where he has triggered this disallowance, process to claim money that belongs to the state, and they are found in wrong pockets. Is worth commending. All right, but I have a problem with the Auditor General. My problem is that I am disappointed in this recent report that the office issued. Why? They mentioned that some COVID money were given to chiefs, and that somebody must pay for it and all that. What the Auditor General failed to do is to name those chiefs involved. Who is he protecting? And I am disappointed, because we have seen reports where people did not close their books. Their names feature prominently in the report. So they need fair treatment. Those chiefs must be named so that we ask them questions, because nobody is above reproach. And I'm disappointed in that. But for the surcharge, I commend the Auditor General. But my disappointment is that those chiefs must be named so that they can also they owe us explanation as to what they did with those monies. We are not saying that they misapplied them, but we want to know them. We want to know them.
The Daily Guide this morning says New Kings take over NDC bench in Parliament, and of course we heard from Dr. Kasilato Forson for the first time. And while the earthquake was traumatizing the citizens of Turkey and among others, a Draman SHS dining hall collapses on 40 students. That's a story there. The Finder reflects the other stories we've seen. So does the Ghanaian publisher. Any final words before we...
Yeah, a Juramang story, sad story. It tells us that we are not serious as a country. We are building cathedrals, and yet we are allowing buildings to collapse on our children. The hypocrisy on the part of some Ghanaians is what is at play. That there are things that impinge on our life. There are things that threaten our very survival. Yet we don't, think about our priorities and make them right. But we think about other things that are of, not immediate benefit to us. We shy away from this, and then we do things that really affect our survival. These children, they've lost their lives.
Right.
But our state have failed them.
Thank you so much, Dr. Asah-Asante, for joining us as always, and we wish you the very best of the day. Dr. Kwame Asah-Asante is political scientist, director for the Center for European Studies at the University of Ghana. And that's how we wrap the news review. Up next, we have a lot for you in the world of sports. Tuesday.
Welcome to AM Sports with me, Razak Musbaut. Let's get to Turkey now, because Turkish goalkeeper Ahmet Eyüp Teklasen has died following Monday's earthquake in his home country. His club, Yeni Malatyaspor, has confirmed this, and more than 5,000 people have so far lost their lives in Turkey and Syria following the earthquake. The club did post on social media saying that our goalkeeper Ahmet Eyüp Teklasen lost his life after being under the collapse of the earthquake. And they added that may his soul rest in peace. So that's Yeni Malatyaspor goalkeeper who has lost his life following that deadly earthquake there. And after over 24 hours under the rubble, Ghanaian international Christian Echi was found and rescued following the deadly earthquake in Turkey. Some Ghanaians who were left worried when the news first broke out now say they're relieved and full of thanks for the life of the former Black Stars winger. I've been speaking to some of them on the streets of Accra.
Very bad. They're looking at, the way he's helped, the Ghana Black Stars in the past, like, events and stuff. I felt, we're very bad. But like I'm saying, we thank God that he's been found.
Mr. Na wayari ebi musi wewu nsempi, but ena no pe nyame ayadom yesi hwenye ne o ma hwehwe no musaka no nti eda nyame ase se me ye Ghana ni a ne da de si ya hwe anye ne de ye nya da nyame ase se ye nsaka no
beti ne esi na beti especially say meti se Ghana ni Christian atwuka ho no na ye yie bi mu a na ye hu no ne de Sam so me Ghana ni de na me yebi hihye me pa say de na ayam ya kase kra say obobo na osan hye go na fi de yi press bebre ni ehu ne de na ayam hihye ma me pa nti na me kra me bom pa say urade ya adom say ye betuma aden ayi no nti nyame adom a me ti say nyame adom ye yi na order so won kwam ne de na say aseda na edi ma urade.
Such a relief that Achu has been found, and he's Ghanaian and he's our blood, and such a catastrophe, no one will wish it on anybody, no matter what. Yeah, so it's a happy moment.
Well, away from that, former Vice President of the Ghana Football Association, George Afriyie, says lack of planning and consistency resulted in the Black Stars' failure to perform at the recently ended CHAN tournament. Ghana exited the competition at the quarterfinals after losing 2-0 to Niger.
Not former Mediama player, Vincent Atinga. Yes, that's the name. He was part of the Galaxies. I saw Mohamed Alassa initial stages when the collapse were made. He was part of the Galaxies. I saw Kaliba Mankwa.
Very well.
They were all part of. What are those players? You see, we don't follow consistency. In football development, sometimes consistency plays a role. Some of the players that you used to qualify the team to Algeria were dropped. So we are not consistent. We don't have a solid program where we make sure that we follow it through. That is the problem. It is not about ranking. Ranking can be done because we've seen countries rank outside the world top 20 coming into major competitions and excelling. We've seen it all the time. We see it always. So it's not necessarily about the ranking. Yes, when you want to put those rankings in terms of the league, you need to put all the factors on the table. Let's go to the North Africans. Egypt, Tunisia, Algeria. Egypt, Tunisia, Algeria. Let me use Morocco. These 4 countries. What have they done in terms of their football development? What have they done? Can we compare? Can we say same to us?
See, that's all we have for you for sports. There's more on the AM show this day.
Welcome back on the AM show, and we get into some pertinent matters of discussion as far as Parliament and our national life is concerned. We'll be talking about the seeming reshuffle that has taken place from the president. Reshuffle no abana. And we'll also talk about the domestic debt exchange program, everything about it, and also get into other pertinent matters of national scope. Joining us for the conversation, we have Member of Parliament for Anyaso, Dr. Dixon Adumaku-Kisi. We also have joining the conversation, the Member of Parliament for South Dain, in the person of Roxanne Nelson Dafiamepo. Gentlemen, a very good morning to you.
Thank you. Morning.
You're all looking very spick and span, dapper this morning, blue on blue, some navy blue on. What's your secret? And I hear my director saying, and you're black on black. The black on black is because my power went out. But I suppose I'm not rocking it back.
He got you there.
He caught me there. He caught me there. Anyway, good to have you gentlemen in the house. Let's make tracks. So I always like to find out, before we get into the substantive matters, how your constituencies are doing. For you, Dr. Adumaku-Kisi, while I was coming in, a colleague of mine, I will not mention his name, saw me and said, Ben, when you go, tell him that in his constituency, the roads are not so good, especially one big called Antieku. You know that road? I don't.
I live in Antieku, so literally it's where I wake up, and I'm very much aware. And in fact, let me just add that for me, I've always been pushing hard. One thing that worries us is drains and then roads, because we have some flood-prone areas as well. And I'm hoping that one day we'll have a Gangantuan loan arrangement, just as now Pokwase has, which is solving a very major problem that they've had for a long time.
Right.
So our issues are not just normal roads and highway issue. We really have some big drains that need to be addressed in my constituency. So I'm with him, but we're hoping, per the pushes of the road minister, that Antieku Road, there are about 4 critical roads that I'm hoping that road ministry would at least give us favor and address for us, and that is one of them.
So I just have to highlight that members of Parliament, by the way, are not in charge of constructing roads and all of that. Sometimes they slip into their promises, but that's technically not their role to play. So what you usually do is lobby so that your constituency gets those things. How much lobbying have you done in respect of the roads in your constituency? Just very quickly, I don't want this to be
one key thing, I brought the entire road ministry to my constituency 2 years ago to hold a symposium and an interaction with the homeowners and the associations we have and the assembly as a whole, to tell us in terms of our current situation, and then also to let us know which contracts are out and things like that. So that was a very interactive thing. The Deputy Road Minister, Honorable Jalula, was there to address them in terms of needs. And then fortunately, just last year too, I was able to bring Road Minister himself, which was a very tough one to do. He came with his whole entourage, and I was really touched by it.
But I'm sure your constituents and most people watching would say, what did that yield?
Well, one thing
practical,
I can say, that 2 roads which contracts are being cancelled. And it's not easy for government to cancel contracts. The Anteku Road you mentioned, and then the Agape Road, Road Minister, through that visitation, has started the process of changing contractor. And that is a huge thing because he realized that the resources of the former contractors were not up to task. So that is a plus. And I'm sure that with the new contractors in the next foreseeable days, we'll see something. And in fact, the Anteku Road is being worked on also from the Anya, enclave, where the so you might, if he's gone through the other stretch, you'd realize that the drains from Anya to Anteku or the municipal are being done. So there's some work. It's just that the pace might not be as he would want. But it's been done. And then there's one major drain that has to be fixed before the Anteku Road is fully addressed. And that one has to be done through Works and Housing. And Works and Housing's budget is quite major at the moment. The Honourable Minister, Asah-Asante, is also working on that. And I'm always, as it is, bugging him, let me put it that way, to a large extent, so that he can give us consideration, but he's given me his word that once he gets some funding, we will be one of the priorities.
As a member of Parliament for Bantama?
Yes.
All right.
Yes.
But thank you for those initial comments. Let me also be fair to you. Saldai, how
he has some nice roads.
And very quickly on what you can say about it.
The one took like 10 minutes to
No, it didn't.
speak about
He actually took 4 minutes.
Okay.
I'm keeping time.
I just returned from the constituency. If you recall, about 4 years ago, we had to stage a very major demonstration in Kwebe for purposes of the recommencement work on the Eastern Corridor. Luckily, that has started last year, for the last 2 years. Work is progressing. The difficulty is that I'm informed by the contractor that there's some delay in payments for work done so far. So I'm praying the government to make payments to him so that he can finish that major road work. My other concerns are my feeder roads. They're in such a terrible state. Tudome to Germany, 23 kilometers. I just graded it. Not too good, but manageable with the dust. Through Enumbuso to, again, Germany to Parliament. Also under construction, but it's been abandoned because of non-payment to the contractor. So it makes traveling to my constituency using that route very bad. Some town roads in Peki are also in a terrible shape. We are not even able to do reshaping. That's how bad the situation is. Those days, reshaping were done regularly to leave the roads in a more travelable state. Sanga to Anyinsu, these days, if you want to hire machines, so expensive.
Even fuel it.
Yeah, so it's the whole of Kwebe. Kwebe has a lot of roads that has to be re-engineered, for instance. Some to be graded from Kwebe town to Kwebe tunnel, where the pumping station is, the Ghana water pumping station is. It's also in a deplorable state. Last I asked one of the engineers why Ghana Water itself cannot even assist in grading that road, since that is where they pump their water from. So I still have a lot of roads to be done.
But are there any? Sometimes we focus on the negatives. Are there any positives? Are there
yes,
some roads that
I began with speaking on the positive. The fact that the Eastern Corridor, the contractor is on site working, just that he needs to be paid so that he can continue working. I started with the positives. But the negatives are,
is that the only
even if those cannot be tarred, I'm saying that we should reshape them. And I'm begging, I'll borrow his word. I'm on the neck of the road minister to have that done. So he's referring.
Have you been fortunate for him to visit your constituency like he
yes,
has?
he visited. In fact,
the president actually visited his constituency. He has to make that known. The president
went he visited my
see the road.
And that he saw the road, he saw the agenda 111. I'm grateful to him. The minister also came, actually with the deputy. We spent 2022 Christmas visiting the project sites.
Fantastic.
Yes, so I pray that the work doesn't stall. But my concern is with the feeders. And I think that if we do reshaping, for instance, Jacket to Anum, it's just 5 kilometers. If we are able to do some reshaping, the people would let go with that. Yes.
Right. So let's get into the substantive matters this morning. We'll be talking about the latest reshuffle. Yeah. We've been calling for it.
Is that a reshuffle?
I interacted this morning.
Some shuffling.
Whichever way. So there are 4 new nominees, 2 have been elevated, and 1 has been reshuffled.
It's only 1 person has been shuffled.
Interacting this morning with political scientist Dr. Kwame Asah-Asante, he said that even if it were 1 person who was replacing a minister, or like we've seen 3 ministers out and new ones, it's still a reshuffle, whichever way you look at it. So technically it is, but in terms of a major overhaul, that is what we can discuss. So we now know that Katie Hammond is the Minister Designate Trade and Industry, replacing Alan Chabating. We know Brian Echampong is headed for the Food and Agriculture Ministry, replacing Dr. Ifriya Koto. We know Stephen Asamoah Boateng is the Minister Designate for Chieftaincy and Religious Affairs after what happened to Honorable Kum, and on health reasons he wants to rest. We know Mohammed Amin Adam, Dr. Amin Adam is now Minister of State Designate at the Finance Ministry, and some have said, well, this probably could be the replacement strategy of the MPP, so that, because now he's more like number 2 in the sequence, right behind Ken Ofori-Atta. Is that the plan? No one knows. But I'll start with you, Dr. Adumaku Kisi. People had called for a reshuffle. Does this, for you, qualify in that sense? And again, looking at the names and faces that have popped up, what do you make of it?
Well, we usually say in our local parlance, Ijebo, Ijebo, Ijebo. I think once... Ijanyaba. Yes. I mean, once Honorable Alan Chamanting put his cap down to pursue presidential ambitions, and then also our great minister did, it was very clear to Ghanaians that those positions had to be refilled, let me put it that way. And the key question was the president going to use that as an opportunity to do some, as it is, dancing around, or waltz or whatever dance you'd call that. And then also, it gave us the opportunity to question performance of the various ministers that we've had so far. And I think that the timing, considering how President took his time to wait until Parliament was in session, is just apt, so as to not delay governmental business. Some of the names that are fascinating for me, quite frankly, for me, I mean, Brian Echampong and the Great Ministry, fantastic. I mean, he is one that literally...
I don't think he's had a ministerial portfolio before.
He has. Deputy at some point.
No, I mean ministerial portfolio.
Not ministerial.
Yes.
Deputy ministerial.
No, ministerial.
Minister of State.
No, hold on.
Yeah,
he was the Minister of State.
Yes.
And the Minister of Interior.
Interior, yes. That's right.
Then he was also a minister in charge of national security at the presidency.
Yeah.
Minister of, so both times Minister of State. Yes. I think that's where that's
national security and Interior.
Right.
Yes.
Right.
So now he's a substantive.
So he's making a return, but this time nominated for
something quite massive. So I'm very much excited about that. And then I think one that took me by surprise, I must say, was Dan Botre's change. Okay. I mean, I wasn't expecting that at all. So well, the local government changed.
It wasn't changed.
We've now added...
So a deputy minister of local government decentralization and rural development, an MP for Equiapem.
But he was a deputy.
Osei Bonsu Amwa has been elevated as a Minister of State at the same ministry, while a Deputy Minister of Trade and
So literally the two of them will be at the table,
yes.
which is still some very interesting change for me.
But it's happening at finance.
Well,
when you say finance, which one are you referring to?
Minister of State in charge of Ministry.
No, but that position.
Okay, so you're referring to Dr. Amin Adam.
Yes,
we're taking over from
yes.
Charles
And when Ambrose Derry was Minister for Interior during the first term, Brian was Minister of State at the Ministry of Interior. So as for that, you are used
okay. If you say that the party or the government is used to that, I think Obi Amo's elevation was a surprise for me. I didn't know
Obi
it was
Amo.
coming. Yeah.
Obi.
Okay.
I didn't see that coming.
It's not.
I mean, he's saying that he didn't see it coming. Allow him to make. He didn't see it coming.
I must admit
Proceed.
And that is fantastic. So literally, these are minor adjustments of some sort. Sticker, who we have as Dr. Amwa, very interesting dynamic there. Him going to trade, fascinating. He's another, powerful guy, and I think he will add much to trade in the future. So these are very good people who will do very well for Ghana, and I'm excited to see how the nomination and as it is appointment committee pans out. But
you're not talking about your friend Sticker. So it had been in the news. It had been in the news that he was going to be, with the speculations that he was going to be the Minister of State at the Finance Ministry. And it rather turned out to be a deputy at the Trades Ministry with K.T. Hammond as his boss. Any reactions?
I think we thought so, but I think somewhere in December, word was out, that had changed. So it's something that we knew had changed.
Word that you didn't share with us.
Well, some of us are a bit close. And in fact, he knew the change had come, and he had some discussions with some of us. So we knew prior to the list coming out that a change had happened in terms of him going to finance. And he's received it very well. I'm very happy that he's very excited about the fact that he's going into a new role, and as it is, as you can see, many have performed in various categories, and you could be at trade today, tomorrow you might be at finance. So it's not necessarily, and I think Brian Champon is an example. He's been at two different places, and now he's at Agric. Nobody would have thought him to even be going to Agric, but here it is that the president, by his own, and that reminds me, for instance, the regional minister for Greater Accra, when he was given the opportunity to do this regional ministerial job, it took a lot of us by surprise. But look at how he's performed. Fantastic. To the extent that I think even the president finds it difficult to move him from that position because he's, excelled at it so
I think the
well.
way he started, a lot of people, he won a lot of hearts.
Absolutely.
Moving on, there have been some constraints, but comparatively, you would say that he has fared pretty well.
And I take my hats off for him every day.
Right before I come to the Member of Parliament for South Dai, Honorable Roxanne Dafiamekbo, I'd like to find out from you, looking at the state of our economy and looking at the replacement for Charles Edubuahin, Dr. Amin Adam, what are your reflections on him? People have started looking at his background and all of that. Questions have come up here and there. What is your thinking about Dr. Amin Adam?
Well, he has a wealth of experience. That is one thing. And I also think that per his experience and his position as a Member of Parliament, he's come to appreciate the intricacies of government. And I think Parliament has been powerful in the sense that we, the first timers, even if we knew more, per our interaction with our constituents, per our interaction with the people of Ghana, we are very much in touch. And I think that he will add that element to Finance Ministry in terms of somebody who's very much in touch with the Ghanaian people, so that, as it is, Finance Ministry will not necessarily be out of touch with Ghanaians. I think Abena Osai is also fantastic, and they'll complement each
the
other.
deputy at the finance?
Absolutely, they'll complement each other. And this time round, as it is, I think that Doc will bring his wealth of knowledge now from Parliament into Finance Ministry as an addition. And also, a key thing is his background in energy. And that really, I think, will also be a plus. You know, in Japan, the finance minister is also the health minister. And you know, that two caps helps really in terms of their health infrastructure and health development. So I think that Doc, per his pedigree and him also being a member of Parliament and his in touchness with Ghanaians, because you know, the interesting thing about parliamentary work is that there are no highs and lows in terms of the people you interact with.
Right.
You are obliged by all means to deal with carpenters, deal with barbering shops, deal with all manner of people,
right,
you know, and the top brass. So I think that it will help Finance Ministry in terms of put them in check, in being very realistic in their.
Let me bring in Roxanne on this matter. So finally, 4 new nominees, 2 have been elevated, 1 has been reshuffled, and my own friend Herbert Krapper is now the Deputy Energy Minister designate. What are your reflections on this? You were saying, in fact, you started by saying this is no reshuffle. Are you sticking to that?
This is no reshuffle.
It's not?
No, at all. This is mainly a replacement of ministers who have left the government for one reason or the other. Katie Hammond, let me begin with Katie Hammond. Katie Hammond has been brought in as trade. We've always known Katie for some law and some work in energy. And
in fact, he's known very much in the energy.
Yeah, because he served as a deputy minister under President Kufuor. That's how come some energy experience being ascribed to him, but I know him for his work in law. So bringing him to trade, I don't serve on the trade committee, but I work closely with them. I'm always attending their meetings as a friend. There are a lot of difficulties in that area regarding the works of the agencies and the trade. So I hope that he brings some reform. And he's to be assisted by our own sticker. You saw yesterday how we hailed that from the opposition. The opposition, we hailed that.
In fact, Mr. Speaker said the way you guys hailed them,
the way we hailed sticker, it was only sticker that we hailed. Because we
what is it with sticker though? I mean,
with his Chinese moves. You know, he has these Chinese moves.
Sticker comes across as somebody who does his work with some form of comic, you know. And so he has, you know, he and I had an altercation some time ago. And we've always been saying that he ought to be rewarded for the kind of things he does for the government. So yesterday, when he was mentioned, you recall somebody said from our side that that even though it's a deputy portfolio, it should take it like that. But I hope that you also assist Katie so that they can look in this country. One sector that can help the economy regain its strength and be revamped is the trade sector. If we handle trade well, we'll do well. And so I hope that they can do well with trade and bring reforms.
A quick one before you go on. Yeah. Both of them are firebrands. Both of them tend to, you know, be very passionate. Sometimes
that's my next point.
Even go.
That's my next.
I don't want to say overboard, but you see how they. You remember I will not forget the coconut head comments of Katie Hammond and the rest. You know, out of passion, sometimes pairing the two of them together. How do you think they're going to work?
That's
together?
my next point. I see that they all have explosive temperaments, and so I hope that they can work well together.
Contain each other.
I hope, yes. And complement each other. Then, of course, Brian has operated in the security sector, first as the Minister of State at the Office of the President in charge of national security. Then, I think 2 years later, he was moved to Interior. As the substantive Minister of State in charge of the Ministry of Interior. Then the elections came. Then now it's been posted to Agric. We have a lot of issues with Agric, the Agric sector as well. The planting for food and jobs and all those programs have been run aground. So I hope that he can bring some life back to those programs. Obi Amoah has been elevated. Obi served as a deputy minister, I think, from about 2005 till about when they left government in 2009. And then when they returned in 2017, he was again made the deputy at the same ministry. So some of us call him senior deputy minister. That's how, that's the cliche that we have for him. So I'm happy that he's been elevated. But I'm shocked that is to serve at the same ministry with another iconic minister with Dambuchwe. I don't know.
Why is there a problem there?
And interestingly, no deputy has been appointed. You know, I was hoping.
So we have a substantive.
There's one deputy.
We have a substantive minister.
Martin Ajay.
Okay, Ajay, yes. So there were two. Obi has been elevated. So Ajay Kosa.
But he is a Minister of State at that.
Yes. So I am wondering what kind of schedules he will have. But hey, I'm not the president.
I'm supposing when the Parliamentary Committee sits with these people, we'll get to, I'm supposing some of these questions will crop up and some of these concerns will be addressed.
But
there are certain things that are sitting from here.
You see, but I mentioned that the government is fond of replicating this model. I just mentioned Brand and Office of the President in charge of National Security when we had Kandapa as Minister, Substantive Minister for National Security.
Right.
Okay. Then he was sent to Interior with Ambrose Derry as Substantive Minister, Sector Minister. Then he was sent there as Minister of State in charge of in charge of Interior, as Minister of Interior. Then we had a case of Edubwine, who was made a Minister of State at the Ministry of Finance. You understand? In addition to the substantive minister, Ken Oforiatta, you know, and now it's been replicated at the local government. So I don't know what really that model is, but I'm happy Asabi is with coming back into government and moving straight to chieftaincy.
You know what comes to mind? The last elections that were held and some of his comments about, you know, the elections. I mean, I'm talking about your national...
The internal elections.
Yes.
He went for chairmanship.
Went for the chairmanship. And I recall he made some comments about vote buying and all
Oh, I want to...
And in this instance, he is getting...
I want to gloss over that and focus on... I'm very sad about my friend, Kwejo.
Right.
Kwejo and I are very close as lawyers and even in Parliament. We work closely together on the Constitutional Legal Parliamentary Affairs Committee. I think we're also on Judiciary. We also took interest in subsidiary legislation. So, but then the domestic accident has affected him. And yesterday, I didn't know. So when the announcement came, I spoke to him. I felt it, you know. He was such talented guy. He was doing well.
But I believe on the grounds of health, it does make perfect sense to allow him to rest.
I agree. But I'm saying that, but for the domestic accident, he was actually doing good work at the chieftaincy ministry.
It's a loss, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yes, I think it's because the verve and vim with which he was doing things with the chieftaincy issues across the country before his accident, which has affected him, for him to leave. So I hope Asabi will build on what Kojo had started. Then Herbert Krapper, that for me is the only reshuffle. So he's been moved from trade to energy to replace Dr. Amin. Amin and I, we did student politics. He was my senior at Kivas. My senior about 3 years or so. He became our NUC's president. And so I've known him for over 20 years. Brilliant guy. He has a finance background, you know. and also
More of
I think
economics, isn't it?
yes. So
A lot of
I pray.
certified economists in the
Yes, I pray that he will do well and deal with bad economic issues. That's
Tough.
Not
Tough.
bad, very bad.
Tough
We run the
economic
country
situation.
aground. But by and large, I don't see the transformation that.
So let me bring this in, since you've gone back to the tangent of reshuffle or no reshuffle.
Yeah.
I spoke to you about the comments of Dr. Kwame Asah-Asante this morning. Let's look at what Professor Jampo also had to say.
Okay.
He said that the supposed reshuffle, as he put it, of ministers did not reflect the purpose for embarking on such exercises, nor did it reflect the aspirations of the public who had continuously called on the president to reshuffle his ministers due to poor performance. That's the Daily Graphic. He also says, basically, this is not a reshuffle because the idea of a reshuffle is to sit and assess your appointees to know that some of the positions will require some qualities that the appointees do not have. And so you move other persons with the needed qualities there.
Yes.
Do you briefly on
yes,
that? Do you
in
agree
fact,
with him?
I agree with him because you see, this is about replacement. 4 ministers have left: Edu Boahen, Alan, Dr. Friye, and Kwejokum. Who else? Then you brought in 5. All right, you brought in 4 to replace them, and then you elevated 1, and so you added to the expenditure because Obiamo's conditions of service will have to be improved because he's now a substantive minister of state, you know, and coupled with the fact that Your Excellency has appointed about 38 judges within the past 3 months, 38 Superior Court judges.
Which will also be a bit of a drain on the public.
Yes, these are very heavy.
All of them come with
They come
Article
with
71 office
exactly, heavy
holders,
expenditure.
the perks and all
2
of that.
Supreme Court judges, 15 Court of Appeal judges, and 21 High Court judges within the past 3 months. 2 Supreme Court judges.
So that's
in
actually
November.
37.
No, 38. 2 Supreme
So
Court
38
judges.
actually,
Yeah,
yeah.
2 Supreme
So
Court
2
judges in
15 plus
November.
what?
15 Court of Appeal judges in December, in fact 22nd, and then last Monday, 21 High Court judges. So,
but I'm thinking about the fact that many cases will be streamlined and some things dealt with expeditiously.
But that's a fair point too that he makes. We've also spoken about the numbers and hastening. I listened to the Auditor General, I think recently, talking about facilitating the processes so that some of the cases we have can be dealt with. We had what was that system called under Kufuor? Fast track court.
Yeah.
But still, it appears our legal system is rather lethargic. Don't you agree on that?
You see, what leads to delays in cases are not really about the number of judges available.
Oh, no,
no. I'm a practitioner.
Sure.
The factors are not really because we don't have enough judges, not enough courts. All right. The factors that cause delays are trial related. They are trial-related factors.
For example, what? A lack of evidence coming up?
No.
State prosecutors sometimes refusing or failing to do the right thing. What are some
sometimes delay in concluding investigations. Okay? You could have a criminal matter at the High Court that will be traveling for like 2-3 years, and prosecution will still be telling you they have not concluded investigations. Okay, so what they brought to court is like an interim investigation, which establishes a prima facie case, so that they can initiate prosecution, but they will still be investigating. 2, sometimes parties change lawyers. Sometimes the judiciary itself changes judges midstream. Judges are transferred to different courts, and when it happens in respect of criminal cases, it has to be tried de novo. Because you change a judge.
Basically.
Yes,
Afresh.
because you change a judge. Sometimes in the course of trial, judges are summoned. I find that practice nauseating. In the course, look, a lawyer is on his feet and the judge will simply announce that, counsel, you may have to end it here. I have just been summoned into a certain meeting.
So that's why if there are more judges, at least.
No,
so it's a
you
factor.
See, we don't.
And then I think that more judges also, the pressures on the prosecution, which judges have a right to, per their office, to make demands in terms of you know, when they conclude.
Right.
These are things that once you have more
when they
judges,
conclude what?
investigations. I mean, the judge can also be, like, as it is, at least seeking answers.
Yes.
And he'll seek more
Why?
answers.
You'll be in this country, judges have been directing prosecution that if you don't bring your evidence or if you don't bring your witness, I'll be compelled to let the accused persons go. It's happening.
Right.
So it is not about the
So for you, just to wrap on that point, was it superfluous to bring in all of these additional judges? Are you saying their roles are redundant?
No, I am making a point that we speak of austerity. We are crying that we are in difficult times. I serve on the Constitutional, Legal and Parliamentary Affairs Committee. We considered the budget of the judiciary.
Okay.
All right. No, the budget of the judiciary came before the Judicial Committee. I saw the report that they brought, and the anticipation of cases that they will do, for instance, this year and going forward. In respect of the Supreme Court, for instance, they expect to handle fewer cases, rather.
Okay.
I have
Well,
the data. If I provided the data.
The other thing too is that
which is actually a step in the right direction.
Yes. So I'm asking.
Mm-hmm.
I know that a couple of new courts have been established, which last year some high court judges have already been appointed to man those courts.
Yeah.
All right. So to appoint 21 high court judges,
even the quality of their arguments when the case is done matters to me. And I think that if one judge handles fewer cases, the depth and breadth of the discussion he'll give for judgment will be richer.
It's like a teacher with fewer students, right?
Absolutely. So the quality of our cases in terms of judicial judgment, which a lot of us also read, we read what the judges say or their summary, and that is very important. And I think that this will help them elevate in terms of the quality of their...
I disagree. I disagree because, you see, the quality of a judge is already the standard for which the person is appointed as a judge. That quality. I'm making a point.
I understand.
That you are not appointing a judge because you think that he hasn't got a quality to deliver quality judgment.
Right.
That is the standard.
No. I said the summary. I mean, if they'll go in depth, it depends on the number of cases.
But Roxanne, you cannot run away from the fact that if there is a lot more pressure, if they have more cases to deal with, even in scripting their judgments, I mean, there'll be some limitations. You have to hasten.
That goes to promotion. That goes to
understand that better because from the standpoint of Parliament,
that goes to assessment.
When,
that goes to assessment and promotion.
Right. I was going to cite the example of Osafo Marfo back then in the German deal and saying some of the fine print had not really been read and all. I mean, it even affects you as members of Parliament. You don't have enough time. So I think that's a reality. But let's quickly move on from that. I just want us to tackle this end of that conversation in some 2 minutes and move on. For you, you see that for some of them, like take trade, for example, people are saying KT Hammond is coming in with what? Less than 2 years left. You have 1D, 1F, and all these, challenges to deal with that Alan has now left and he has to take up. How effective is he going to be? We've spoken about the numbers as well. Dr. Kasilato Forson, in that first interaction in Parliament with the media, said, we're not going to tolerate any additional ministers from the MPP. And if His Excellency the President proposes it, we're going to poo-poo that decision. Then we heard about pensions and, all of that. So with these numbers, and even an add-on, if you like, what's your reflection? The time left and the numbers in Parliament. Other jurisdictions, Lazarus Chakwera has 30-something ministers. He's brought it down to 20-something. We have about 110. What's going on?
Well, you have a strong point there. I think what I've heard is that the reshuffle necessarily isn't necessarily done, and that there might be some additional changes.
So you're saying here that from the grapevine, there could be more to look forward to.
So we don't know, for instance, as it stands now, although we've upgraded OB, the deputy position is now vacant. And would that be necessarily not refilled? We don't know. And that depends on Mr. President. And literally, let me also posit this. This is very important. I'd beg Ghanaians to look carefully at the expenditure of government and to come to terms with the fact that it is not necessarily even these appointments, the ministers, that really account for the huge losses, if any. And that argument, anybody should check. If you look at the salary, even emolument changes, for instance, that would hit someone like Obi Amwa. It's not going to be much significant to the extent that we make so much noise about the wrong things. There are other things that we can chop off in this government, which is way much important and has more weight than appointing
other things
one
like what?
or
Very,
two.
very briefly. Maybe
I mean,
one or two.
I, for instance, and forgive me for saying this, I've always said that I would rather have a lot more resources put into just 16 of the Agenda 111 so that we complete it.
People have even said that look, if you can complete 5 or 6, stock them up, ensure that they reach a certain caliber. There's so much pressure in the sub-region on Kolebu and the rest.
Thank you.
Why don't we focus on about 5 or 6 rather than 100?
So I'm with you. So that is one because that's about $1.5 billion project, and if we can concentrate, I am even saying 16 because there are 16 regions.
Right.
And
But
finish
mind you,
that.
10 of them already have regional hospitals. So
Well,
you could,
this is district, though, not
really,
regional hospital.
Yeah, I get them.
So-
but it
so
falls into that because
this can
6 of them are supposed to now get
relieve.
regional hospitals.
Or if we can target, for instance, this Koforidia regional hospital expansion and complete it massively within the shortest possible time, where we just put in all the resources needed to complete these, I'll be much happier. So I think that, and mind you, one of the 111 hospitals is far more expensive than an additional appointee.
Right.
And this is what I want Ghanaians to think
So that's
about.
the perspective you
know,
wanted
that
to...
that always we seem to hone on to the employee thing, but mind you, what infrastructural things matter and are costly far more than just maybe moving from MP to deputy or deputy to minister.
And the add-ons. But let me come back to Roxham. So when you look at, I want us to make tracks because there are other matters to look at. The minority leadership in Parliament. I spoke to you on phone, I think, back then, and you shared your thoughts about the procedural challenges, but that by and large, this was nothing new. We had the interaction with Johnson Esidu Nketia, now party chairman, in London. He made his point, spoke about the different issues, the economy, energy, infrastructure, and the mindset behind the changes.
And the relationship with Mr. Speaker.
And the relationship with Mr. Speaker.
Very crucial.
It's crucial. It's crucial. It is important. Then we also had the NEC come in. Then we had the former president interact with some of them. The chief whip, for example, posted on social media about his interactions. Yesterday, the new leadership sat. In fact, for Dr. Kasilato Forsen, he had a court case. So the court had to grant him leave to come and perform those roles. And interestingly, even from your minority end, there wasn't too much of the here, until he started talking about the economy and jabbing a bit. What do you make of all that has happened? Is it water under the bridge now? Are there still undercurrents in terms of this change in leadership?
Yes, let me say that I wish to commend the leadership of Haruna Idrisu. He's trained me in Parliament very well. I work closely with him. It was unfortunate that the change occurred and affected him. A lot of
you say it's unfortunate that the change occurred and it affected
him. We're hoping that he may not be affected. But like you put it, it's water under the bridge now.
It is?
He's accepted. He's issued a statement. He's asked all his followers to calm down. We are throwing our support behind the leadership of Atu Forsen, Ama Kofi-Boa, Kwame Agboja, and of course Ahmed and Doyo.
Those who have been retained and those who have been added on, the two retentions and the others.
There's calm. The storm is over. We will support Atu Forsen to deliver as leader of the House. Yesterday was the first day.
What did you make of his first showing as minority leader?
I think he did well. Atu is a member of the House, and he's always been.
it's not in dispute.
Yeah, it's
but
always
he's been moved to a different.
I agree. So that's what I'm saying, that the environment is not new. Maybe moving to the podium to make a presentation is all maybe new. But as ranking for minority, he's always in the front bench, delivering salvos and all that. Yesterday, he didn't disappoint. Even his, what I would call his inaugural speech, he cautioned the government. Things that will tolerate and things will not tolerate. They mentioned some 15 billion not approved by Parliament, but that somehow has found its way into government. Government has factored that into its reckoning for expenditure purposes. He's really drawn attention to it. So I think he will bring a different style than that of Haruna. Haruna has a different, unique style. Atu's style will be different. But the essence...
Some say Atu is slow but sure.
Atu is not slow.
Is that a perspective you share?
No, Atu is not slow. Atu has his unique set skills. Differently.
Obviously, they are different gentlemen with different temperaments.
Different temperament, different specializations and all, and delivery styles. But Atu is sharp and is good. All right? So let's give him a week to settle, and then you see him.
Quick one. I just want to find out from you, with the new leadership, especially under Dr. Kasilato Forson, what is the NDC minority in Parliament? What are you looking forward to? Especially when your chairman has said, we're bringing Atu, especially on the economy, because it's going to be crucial. We're bringing Honorable Bua on energy issues because that's going to be pivotal as well, infrastructure and others. What are your expectations from your leadership in Parliament?
Our expectation is for them to continue from where Haruna and his team left off, and perhaps put in a bit more energy in terms of the opposition work. To be able to stampede government and a lot of the frivolous policies.
Stampede government?
Yes, but why wouldn't we?
Government.
Yes, we have to stampede. Look, as we speak, yes, I'm being very honest. As we speak, government is going around holding negotiations with parties, pensioners, individual bondholders, banks, insurance companies, without recourse to Parliament. How is that? We don't even know the terms of this DDE arrangement. These are privately arranged contractual agreements between individuals and banks who are holding their bonds. And you want to tamper with it?
And that's a very next conversation.
Pursuant to Section 65 of the Public Financial Management Act and the Revenue Administration Act, any such arrangement amounts to borrowing. Somebody's money is with you. The time is due for you to release the money. You say you won't release it. You want to extend it. And you're asking the person to voluntarily agree. The person says, I won't. You are compelling the person to. So you are holding onto his money unlawfully. And you think that you don't have to come to Parliament for us to understand what is happening. So these policies, we cannot support the government to undertake such policies.
And since you've already started off on that trajectory, let me continue with you. The DDEP has come. You look at our domestic debt, you look at our external debt portfolio, which is pretty problematic. Some have said that, look, the domestic debt is not so much of a problem, but the external one. And now we are calling on the Paris Club and all of that to assist us. We heard Mr. President recently interacting with the Germans, saying basically encourage the Chinese to help us. But you look at where we've come. We are still unsure whether we've hit 80% in terms of the subscription, though some have said that we actually don't even need 80%. I spoke to Professor Aka of ISA yesterday. He says we don't need it. Others have said the same. But especially when you look at the pensioner bondholders, about 500 of them, who are insistent that we will not partake in this. We have paid our dues to this country. We have served. We've done everything. We use these for medication, rent, utilities, and all of that. You can't do this
and
to
upkeep of our children.
And they've been picketing at the ministry. I found something distasteful. First day they went, they were allowed in, interacted with the minister. Next day, there's a sort of blockade. They don't. I found these are elderly citizens. What is your quick take on that? Because they are holding out and saying, we will not do this.
My quick take is that this government is not sensitive to such plight. Listen, you have decided to include domestic bondholders in these debt renegotiations. You told Parliament in your budget that it's only the external debt holders, external creditors, who will be affected, that the domestic bondholders would not be affected. It was under this policy that we approved the budget. The evening of the 24th, the dawn that we approved the budget, we approved the budget on the dawn of the 24th of December. All right? Now, the evening of that day, you issue a statement very quietly and declare that domestic debt holders will be affected. And that was when everybody went gaga. So what are the terms? Parliament is not aware. You did say in the budget that in due course you come to Parliament to explain the terms of the policy. Meanwhile, you are told Parliament that it was only the external creditors who will be affected. So we're expecting that further explanation would have stated the terms under which you were engaging the external creditors, only for you to add domestic bondholders. So Parliament ought to know. It's such an urgent matter. That was why yesterday, when the business statement, for instance, was read, and it was completely missing. The Honorable Kujatua Blackwell and myself and Honorable Ayarga raised the matter. As for Honorable Ayarga, he's written a long thesis, long legal thesis on that, and forwarded to the Minister of Finance, and I think the Governor of the Bank of Ghana.
Right.
Stating the unconstitutional basis, the raising some legal issues, and why the whole arrangement is unlawful. So these are not matters that we are taking lightly. We are saying that the domestic bondholders ought not to be affected. Because when you do that, you are going to cripple businesses. Sole proprietors, persons who have invested, can't have their money when it's due. They can't have their principal nor their interest.
Right.
How do you want them to survive? Individuals can't manage home. Not only pensioners, the people who are working, the middle class. We are paying school fees. You are aware that government has increased school fees by 15%. School fees have been increased. Persons can't pay school fees and they are falling on MPs. Ask him. The number of messages he's getting in respect of school fees. How do you want people to survive? So that is why, as a minority, we are saying that we will not, and we've stated our policy, the party, the minority organ in Parliament, we've stated clearly that we are not in support of this, of the debt exchange program. We are not in support. They tell us that if we don't do that and we go to the IMF by March, the economy will collapse. The same person told us. The same person told us that if we don't pass the e-levy, the economy will collapse. We passed the e-levy for him. Did the economy collapse?
Point made. And actually, you did not pass it for him. Parliament as a house, but you walked out.
But I'm saying
Parliament as a house. Dr. Adomako Kisi, so we have the Speaker inviting Ken Ofori-Atta. Coincidentally, the date on which he's supposed to show up is the same date when some finality is supposed to come to the DDEP. Your take on that quickly.
Well, in line with what my leadership has said to Finance Minister, that this debt restructuring or debt exchange program doesn't sit well with the populace. And we are still, as it is, I think, hoping that there's an alternative and until the last minute. And we're really, on the majority side, really pushing that we get an alternative solution. And I think per the President's remarks to the German Finance Ministry when they met was in line with what we are anticipating, that we look at other opportunities to handle our bonds and, more importantly, strengthen government guarantees. You know, what is at stake here is not just the pension issues or people's medications. What is at stake here is is your word being bond. And you know, the
word being your bond, your
your
promise
word
holding. Because
exactly.
now people are going to say what was risk-free is no longer risk-free. So what do we do now?
And that is my problem, you know. And when government tells you sit high, government ought to give you all the necessary parachutes to make sure that where it has told you to sit, you be comfortable. And you know, bondholders are long-term investors. That's one key thing. Yeah. But there are limitations to your patience, and we're trying to test it. And from a financial standpoint, this is a grave issue.
Do you think we could get our fingers burnt at the end of all of this, in terms of the consequences to the financial system?
Listen, the consequences are unimaginable. And you know, we've had issues in this country, but this one really cuts me deep. And I weep and I'm pained by this current situation, more so than any other situation that has hit the country so far. Because when the integrity or the assurance that government gives you is being affected, then literally everything goes haywire. And from a financial standpoint, you know, America was there and they made some monumental changes because they just couldn't let it happen. And I think that, and I'm hoping that our finance ministry gets this message carefully, that it is really about the fact that government assurance. And from an insurance standpoint, when you assure somebody that I have a policy for you, we'll pay out this when this happens. When you renege on that, the consequences has to be dire.
The consequences.
And I think that, not to mince my words, somebody has to be held seriously accountable for.
Who has to be held responsible?
This if it
the finance minister.
Well, I mean,
call a spade a spade.
As it stands, I think that it is troubling.
It is troubling.
And personally, I don't sleep with this issue. It's serious.
You don't sleep.
It's serious.
I'll come back to you. There's a bit of an issue with your microphone, so we'll quickly.
Let me say
but what he was saying basically was that it's so dicey that he's losing sleep over this matter, and he's not alone. But I want to. We don't have enough time. We have a minute.
But let me say this.
Extremely.
Yeah, let me say this. If we had known that the domestic bondholders will be affected, if we had been told in the budget, the minority would not have approved the budget. We wouldn't have.
If you had known what?
Yes. If we had said so clearly in the budget that there will be a debt exchange program that will affect external creditors as well as domestic creditors, we would not have approved the budget.
You would not have approved the budget.
Because he told us that it's only external creditors who will be affected. And then he'll come back to Parliament to explain the terms. Only for us to approve the budget. Then hours later, he issued a statement and said that domestic bondholders will be affected.
Do you feel the finance minister has been dishonest?
He was deceitful to Parliament. He deceived us. Look, minority, if we had known that my anti-savings will be affected, wouldn't have supported this.
All right. So to wrap the conversation, your final comments, gentlemen. But I want your final comments to be focused. I'm going to box you into a corner. Earthquake in Turkey.
Yeah.
Our president reacts, and we all reacted. Christian Achu, among others. I mean, we've spoken about Christian, but other people are in there. Ghanaians, students, among others, affected.
Domestic workers.
But then, Idraman SHS dining hall collapses. The roof is torn off. 40 students, a lot of them are injured and all that. There's no talk about it. And we're wondering, what is going on? Far away Turkey. We're talking about it, commenting. Mr. President is reacting. In our own backyard, 30 seconds each, and it's a wrap.
Well, let me thank the media for bringing it to the limelight. You know, I'll commend you anytime you do that. But more importantly, I really think that, listen, the gravity of Turkey's issue by no way close to what happened to 40 students.
Are you downplaying what has happened there?
Listen. I said the gravity. And let's be very fair with our president. You know, this is an international issue, a player we all follow, you know, in terms of stardom. And you know, some issues, we all get car accidents, But if that Lumba gets a car accident tomorrow, you capture it in the news. So we have to be realistic.
God forbid, of course.
No, I'm just sorry. I mean, pardon my use of accident. Maybe I can use something else. But if he hits the lottery, tomorrow we'll talk about it. So let's be guided by the fact that there's a superstar, a Ghanaian superstar, a footballer we all follow.
Are you suggesting that if we hadn't had a Christian Achu in maybe the president would not have reacted?
He may or may not, but generally I think it's expected of all presidents when another country is before by some tragic issue like this that we comment on it. And this is something that is making international waves. So the president has to. Now, let's be mindful of the fact that we have local leadership who have also committed and taken action and gone there. I had the municipal executive there to talk about it. So I really think that locally, once NADMO is working, all these agencies are working, we have something. There's a regional minister
final
yes, who has made a comment
on
about
that.
it.
Some 30 seconds.
Yes, I'm sad by the happenings in Ejura. It was a force majeure. From the story, the roof of the dino was ripped off in a thunderous rainstorm, leading to the collapse of the building on the student. I think they were running helter-skelter, but somehow some got trapped. And some, they were rescued, some sustained injuries. But it's important that we bring attention to any form of disaster in our country as well. Just a couple of weeks ago, some children got drowned in 9
or 8?
Yes, about 8 children got drowned in Sydney East or Sydney West. Very, very sad.
Yeah.
I suffered that in South Dine a lot. My people get drowned frequently on the lake when they are traveling between Germany and our farm plains. Sometimes they are caught up in a rainstorm. Sometimes the storm out of nowhere on the lake. And they are caught up. They don't have life jackets and all. So as a people, as a nation, we need to make funds available for purchases of some of these things. But in respect of the rainstorm, it's a force majeure. GS should go in and see how they can quickly rebuild the structure for the students. And NADMO should get in and see how the students are doing. They can be properly attended to, so their education is not...
What I can guarantee we will do is continue throwing the spotlight like we did with Ghana Schools of Shame, Pandai District. I will
urge the member of Parliament for the area to raise the matter by way of statement on the floor. Then we can contribute and see what attention can be brought to it.
Thank you so much for your time. Roxanne Nelson Dafiamekpo, Member of Parliament for South Dai. We also have Dr. Dixon Adomaku Kisi, Member of Parliament for Anya Sotom, joining us to have this discourse. But up next, right after the break, we'll be talking further about major developments in our country. We'll be taking a look at the domestic debt exchange, among others, with a former Member of Parliament for Tamale Central. He is also a former Lands and Natural Resources Minister. Inusa Fuseni will be joining us on the show as we have breakfast with him on matters in the minority, the NDC, and other matters that are cropping up nationally. You're going to make my producer and director beat
15
me.
seconds. Good morning to Pekik Balik Pevetongo. And Degan, good morning. Mama Tomelo, good morning. Togo Atiklaja. And Togo Akudumpe, good morning.
Thank you so much, gentlemen.
Let me then also thank Kolebu Accident Center. They're handling one of my concerns very well.
Okay.
And I appreciate what they do for Ghana in terms of motorbike accidents
Wonderful.
and other injuries that people sustain during road traffic accidents. So thank you, Kolebu.
Thank you, gentlemen, for your salutations. Just stay with me. The news review on the AM show, which we had earlier, it's brought to you courtesy of Endpoint Homeopathic Clinic. We're offering free prostate screening and free female fertility screening. I think all of us should be going there, prostate screening. The location is the Accra Spintex area opposite the Shell signboard, Kumasi Kronum Abuehia, behind the Angel Educational Complex. In Takrade, Anaji Estate in Tema Community 22, in Techiman, Hansua, and Esiama in Inzima. You can reach us on 0244 867-068 or 0274-234-321. Endpoint Homeopathic Clinic, the end to chronic disease and the end to the first leg of our big stories. But the second lap coming up. Do stay.
Very good morning to you. Thank you for staying here on the AM show with Benjamin and Bernice. It's now time for us to get into the other leg of our big stories, and we're speaking to former Lands and Natural Resources Minister Asah-Asante. He's also a very important member of the NDC, former member of Parliament for Tamale Central. How are you doing?
I'm good.
How's life outside Parliament?
Well, it's good. I mean, you get to
no stress.
You get to control your whole life. You determine what you want to do, and you take things slowly. I mean, so you are not under stress. Yeah.
Interesting. I'd like to start off with, I know we'll be getting into the NDC's leadership in Parliament, because Parliament has resumed, and you were one of the key persons who spoke about that decision to change leadership. But let's start with this other one that happened in Parliament, with the Speaker announcing the reshuffle by President Akufo-Addo. There have been calls for him to do this. Is this what you were expecting?
Not at all. I mean, this reshuffle, that's why it's not excited, I mean, a lot of people in this country. I mean, if a team is playing in a derby or a tournament, and some players are not performing well, or some players have been injured and need to be replaced, is the expectation that you bring people who are more competent, who at least can meet the expectation of Ghanaians. I mean, this reshuffle doesn't inspire anybody.
Are you questioning the competence of the people we see here? For example, Kobna Tyrant Mohammed, Katie Hammond, Brian Champong, Mohammed Amin Adam. Are you questioning the competence of these people?
Brian Champong, Amin and the others, apart from Katie Hammond and Stephen Amua, were part of the government, not so? And the performance of the government has been abysmal. And so what new are they bringing to the ministry? I mean, to the various ministries they are being sent to? I mean, do you see the dynamics? I mean, for Amin Anta, I even question why he should be sent to the Ministry of Finance. I mean, he's not a finance person, you see? And we are in critical times. You need people to think outside the box. Try to get us out of the doldrums. So why are you moving somebody who has expertise in energy to the Ministry of Finance when we are dealing with the debt, the domestic debt issue?
Could it be linked to the gold for oil deal, trying to see how we could, work that out from that angle as well? Because we all know Mr. Amin Adam to be an energy person, rightly put, but does it take away his ability to work as minister designate
you are taking,
of state?
You are taking somebody who has expertise in energy to a Ministry of Finance just because you want that fellow to help you deal with the gold for oil.
That has not been said. I am saying, could it be? Probably. Well, but what for you would have been an exciting reshuffle?
For me, for Minister of Finance, I thought that the president should have reached out to Asibe Yeboah. I worked with him in Parliament. He's a sharp brain. He knows exactly, I mean, he has some understanding of why we have gotten to where we are. And he has proffered solutions. In fact, he was the first to talk about Ghana going to the IMF from the MPP side, when almost everybody was saying that, no, that was not a feasible outcome. He said, look, we are almost crashing. And so if we don't get to the IMF for external support, we might go bankrupt. And he's spoken. I mean, when the Minister of Finance sought to impose their wishes on the people of Ghana in terms of how to deal with the debt, domestic debt, he said, no, you can't compel the people because this is a voluntary agreement. And so you must engage the people, engage the stakeholders. He also spoke about setting up a stabilization fund to be able to deal with those who are on the fringes, so that I mean, the burden, the difficulty, the hardship that is going to befall the people by reason of the program will be mitigated somehow. And so I thought that if the president was well-intentioned, he should have looked at such people and bring new expertise, new insights into how we go about managing our debt in this country.
Since you earlier hinted on competencies, let's look at K.T. Hammond. You've worked with him in Parliament. Some of your colleagues have referred to him as a very interesting character. Murtala Mohammed, for example, is wondering if he will be able to work with Stephen Amoah. He describes the two personalities as having very interesting temperaments. But K.T. Hammond and the Ministry of Trade, are you convinced that he will be able to do a good job there?
Well, I worked, like you rightly said, I've worked with K.T. Hammond for a very long time in Parliament. I mean, I was close to him in Parliament. I've watched him when he was Deputy Minister of Energy at the Ministry of Energy. He don't know how to assess him. I know he's a rabid a politician. Sometimes he says things that are politically incorrect. But then, I don't know what has gone into. You can't question where the president has a discretion to nominate people to offices. You can't question the exercise of that discretion, can you? Except that we will be watching closely how the K.T. Hammond performs in office.
Interesting. So we'll move on to other matters. We'll see how it turns out for them. But still in Parliament, yesterday we saw the leadership of the minority belonging to the NDC, the party you belong to, put forth this new leadership. At the time the news broke, you were one of the people who was spoken to on how it went about, whether or not it was necessary. But there's just one question that I think has not been really explored or responded to. And the question is that, would we have seen a change in that leadership if the party's executives were maintained?
I'm unable to tell. I mean, if you speculate, assume.
Isn't this happening because the new chairman, Asiedu Nketia, and the new leadership cannot work with Haruna Idrisu?
No, I don't think so, because Asiedu Nketia was the general secretary of the party when Haruna Idrisu was the minority leader. Indeed, I still recall that in 2017, it was Asiedu Nketia who came to Parliament to inform us that the party had decided that Haruna Idrisu be the minority leader, Aveji be his deputy, Muntaka be the whip, Ahmed be the deputy whip, and Doyo. So we were informed. It was the party that took the decision. It was the lot of Asiedu Nketia to communicate that decision to us in Parliament.
Well, I appreciate that you say it was his job to communicate, but at the time, was he really in agreement with it? Because even we heard from the new General Secretary this time announcing it. But the reason I'm asking this is that it's interesting, the timing, midstream Parliament's tenure, i.e. the 4-year term of every government. And this hasn't happened before midstream, right? And it's also because your party has changed leadership midstream. And that's why I'm trying to build the correlation. Is that not...
So it's a coincidence, okay? And
coincidence?
That coincidence is interesting, not so. It's an interesting coincidence. So people I mean, can latch onto the coincidence and come up with all other permutations and prognosis of why the change happened. But this is a party that is looking at 2024. The party is taking strategic decisions along the line. You can see a manifestation of the strategic decision of the party and the generality of members of the party in the recently held Congress. I was here in your studio, sitting at this particular place, when the drama and the change in leadership was unfolding. And you could see that the party, the generality of the party, the grassroots, the delegates had decided that certain crop of people must take the leadership of the party. And so strategic decisions are taken by the party at any turn. And for us, as a party, and I've since looked at the communication from the Council of Elders, for us as a party, you don't have to look over your shoulder to see exactly why we took that decision. Okay, was it in terms of the activities, the conduct, of the past executives or leaders of the party in Parliament. For us as a party, we're looking forward. We're looking to see how we can strategically position our caucus in Parliament to meet the reasonable and legitimate expectations of the people of Ghana, to win the minds and hearts of the people of Ghana, to show that we are the better alternative, to show that we are poised for victory in 2024.
So was this just about, as some have suggested, communicating a certain character of the party to take hard decisions when it comes to reshuffling, because we know that there have been calls, well, up until yesterday we heard of this reshuffling by the president, that the president must make certain changes. Key amongst them was the Minister of Finance, who some members of his own party in Parliament had called for saying. So this is just about what, communicating that you're a stronger side, you take some of these hard decisions.
This is just communicating that when it comes to taking decisions, we will take them. We'll not shy away from decision taking. I mean, people have spoken about timing. The concept of time admits of many variables before you can come to the conclusion that this is the proper time to make an announcement. I mean, people have argued that the NPP was reeling, that the scandals were many, and that Ghanaians were chewing on the scandals, and that our reshuffle gave some respite to the NPP. I say, beg to differ. The scandals in the NPP aren't going away, are they? But the NDC had the decision to make. And you don't postpone the making of that decision because your opponent is reeling. We're going to go to Congress on the 13th of May. Even on that day, if there is the mother of all scandals happening in this country, we'll go to Congress. We'll go. And so it's about taking decisions when decisions have to be taken and not postponing the decisions. I mean, because if you postpone the decision, you lose the momentum to put the party on a good footing for what is ahead.
Interesting. Let's talk about how the party handled the aftermath of this this issue. So we saw some members in Parliament hold a press conference saying that they wanted the party to engage further and consider their position on the matter. We also heard at the time from KC Lachofosin, who then was not leader because he wasn't sworn in and the Parliament had not resumed, but speaking about what his agenda was. And there was a lot of ripple effects after that. We heard from executives and all that, even NECBET, like you mentioned. But it appears that it was once again the intervention of John Dramani Mahama that calmed the two sides. It appears. Isn't the party losing its hold to the former president? Then again, I'm saying that because I know he's a member of the party, a strong one as such as former president. But when the issue of violence happened during the party's elections in Cape Coast for the youth organizer and the women's organizer, once again, it was John Dramani Mahama. It appears that he has certain powers that the executive doesn't even have when it comes to solving matters of these kinds.
This should not surprise you, my dear. John Dramani Mahama is the only surviving president of the NDC in this country.
So that gives him a lot of power above the executive members, does it?
So if we are talking about former presidents, living former presidents in this country of the NDC, it's John Dramani Mahama. It is the coincidence of events that have put him in that position. So it's a key figure in the NDC. Now, John Dramani Mahama is also the presumptive leader of the party for the 2024 elections.
Are you using leader and flag bearer interchangeably?
So let me explain.
No, please answer the question first.
By the NDC, if I explain, you understand. By the NDC constitution, when the party is in opposition and has not yet, elected its flag bearer, the chairman of the party is the leader of the party.
Right.
When the party is in power, the president is the leader of the party. When the party elects its flag bearer, the flag bearer becomes the leader of the party.
So by what you've said, Asiedu Nketia is
the leader of the party, presently as we speak.
Okay, so how does former President Mahama become the presumptive leader then, if there is an existing leader, per what you've just explained?
Presumptive leader in the sense that if he's elected, or when, let me say when, because he will be, when he is elected leader of the party, he takes the mantle from Asiedu Nketia.
I mean, you say this with such confidence. Isn't this putting, isn't this an unfair statement to make, considering there are people who put up their heads to...
No. I'm just being realistic. That if we look at the last primaries of the NDC, John Dramani Mahama got 95% of the votes across the country.
And you're saying that in 4 years that couldn't change?
In fact, he's since grown in popularity. I will not be surprised if he gets 98%.
But is he the best the party can put forward?
In the circumstances, John Dramani Mahama is the best. In fact, I have said it elsewhere, and I'll say it here. In fact, it appears to me that we are even lucky to have John Dramani Mahama showing interest in the leadership of the party. Why? John Dramani Mahama was the president of this country from 2013. In fact, from June 2014, when President Atamils passed on, to 6th of January 2017, John Dramani Mahama undertook several developmental projects in this country. He also initiated a lot of policy that came under severe criticism. His policies were so ridiculed, and he himself was so bastardized that he lost favor with the people of this country. And this government was brought in. Apparently, what he was doing was stabilizing this country and putting the country on a very solid ground, terra firma. Some decisions that he took, on hindsight, the MPP has come to accept that they were good decisions.
Like
allowances for teacher trainees and
I'm not sure they've considered because they revised that decision and they're given allowances to the.
They revised the decision. Okay, they revised the decision, but you are aware that when trouble started coming to us, one of the things that they considered was whether or not it was at all feasible to continue to pay allowances. Okay? We have said that, look, we support free senior high school system. Mm-hmm. But it's not everybody in Ghana who is poor. So why don't you use the Ghana Standard Living Survey, determine those who are poor and so cannot take care of their wards in school, then extend the scholarship to them instead of doing a wholesale implementation of free senior high school. Today, this free senior high school is under review. We have said many things.
Well, you're telling me it's under review because I recently spoke to the Minister of Education and I put that question to him. It doesn't appear to me in his response that it is really being reviewed, unless there's something you know that he didn't tell us.
The Minister of Education also said that the schools that you described as schools of shame were actually schools of fame.
So he explains that he was taken out of context and that he was making reference to the students who were at the G-STEP program who had innovated or invented appliances and devices to solve problems. He was describing them as schools of
I would not be surprised if he says that, well, maybe you are reporting him out of context.
Okay, so focusing on John Dramani Mahama again, because like you mentioned, we are in 2023, you're hoping to set the ground, set the tone for campaign in 2024, looking forward to elections. Who will be his running mate? Do you know?
I don't know. It's the exclusive right of the flag bearer.
But who can or who should?
There are many people who can, but the person who is in pole position is Professor Nana Opoku-Agyeman. Yes, in pole position because she ran last time with him. And she garnered 6 million votes together with John Dramani Mahama. And so she's in pole position.
Interesting. Are you hoping to come back into active politics? Do you hope to work with John Dramani Mahama if he wins the 2024 elections?
Well, I'm working with John Dramani Mahama. I'm working with the party to ensure that the party is properly positioned to win the election 2024. Wherever I am, I'm working for that. And that is me because I am NDC. I mean, and the politics of perception is important. That for us as a people, anywhere we are, because we are members of the party, we must conduct our affairs in such a way that we win the admiration of many more people, not for ourselves, but for the party.
Did you leave Parliament because you have bigger political ambition?
No, I didn't. I left Parliament because it's like reading a book. If you don't finish reading the last chapter of the book, you aren't going to turn to the next chapter. So for me, I thought, and I rightly believe, that my life's chapter on Parliament was over. I had finished reading it.
What were the indicators that made you believe so?
Well, first of all, I had been in Parliament for close to 16 years. I had seen the people who were contesting me in the 2016 elections. All those who contested me were far my juniors. In fact, some were of my son's age. Clearly, there was a generational change that I need to continue to be doing political battles with people who were the age of my children. I just thought that, no, the people, the configuration of the contestants was communicating to me that it was time to move on. And I moved on.
So that was the most important indicator for you?
That was the most important indicator for me.
When you set out as a young man to enter politics, what was your dream? To specifically being a member of Parliament, and would you say that you were able to achieve that even to 80 or 90%?
Well, I will leave that for the people to judge.
No, but I'm talking about
but
your personal
my
goal.
My personal dream was to be a useful, responsible, and contributing member to the community I serve. And that was the Tamale Central constituency. And within the period that I was in Parliament, I had affected their lives in various ways. Now, I come from a family that produced the first graduate in me. So I thought that one of the things, or the legacies that I could leave, was to make sure that a greater number of people had access to education. But the only reason why I was serving my people was because I had been given an opportunity to go to school. So if you go to the Tamale Central constituency, there is no ward in the constituency that you will not see my footprints. So infrastructure-wise, I did deliver a lot. I even also touched the lives of many people who were distressed, whether they could not pay the school fees of their children, they were in hospitals. In fact, at a point, I collaborated with the surgeons, West African College of Surgeons, to go to Tamale and operate on goiter and other sicknesses and diseases that were afflicting my people. You know, and in Parliament, my single most important focus was that I should not be lost in Parliament. I should not just come to Parliament, and when I leave Parliament, I'm forgotten. And I think that I achieved that to a very large extent.
Now, back to NDC politics. I don't know if you've seen that video of your youth organizer for Swami, which has been trending. The party's communications person, Sami Jainfi, has released a statement. But I just wonder why politicians always have to equalize. So he starts the statement by admitting that the party has seen that video. He asks that the police should pardon him because he misspoke. That is, the youth organizer for Swami misspoke, and what he sought to convey did not come out as intended. So those are just the two first lines of the statement. The rest is equalization and talks about how it's hypocritical for the police, you know, to come out with this when they didn't do that to a certain NPP person. Couldn't we, or couldn't the party just have apologized and say, look, he misspoke, we apologize, and then go on to encourage other party members to desist from making. Do we need to equalize? What's it with NDC and MPP and always trying to equalize?
So you say what the youth organizers said is a symptom of the underlying problems in our democratic dispensation. Now, when you have impunity taking center stage in the delivery of democracy, when people cannot be held accountable, and accountability is very important in any democratic dispensation, then people will be emboldened to say things that are clearly not welcomed. So you can see the statement by the youth organizer in Swami as evidencing frustration, as showing lack of confidence in the political system to ensure what our motto says, freedom and justice. Because if people have been hard done by in the last elections and they cannot get justice for that.
But does it justify what the youth organizer said?
But what justifies it? Tell me, how will you respond to such a situation? You throw your hands in the air? Well, how will you justify?
Do you incite violence as well?
How do you justify that? How do you justify that people have been treated badly, people have been killed, and absolutely nothing, not even the president, has acknowledged that 8 people lost their lives? How do you expect the people of this country to respond? How do you expect the up-and-coming youth to respond? What are you communicating to them? I mean, if you had arrested those people and dealt with them, you restore confidence in the people of this country that anybody who takes the law into his own hands will be dealt with. You discourage impunity. But if you leave people to their whims and caprices, where people can take the law into their own hands and behave as they wish, what do you expect? So what the youth organizer said is a reflection of the decay in our political system. And the earlier we started looking at it, the better. Well, some will say he shouldn't have said that. That's why our youth organizer, our director of communications has said that he misspoke and drew attention to the decay, the malice in our democratic system. We should be prepared as a country to hold people accountable for their actions. And it is only when we do that that we will prevent people. It will no longer be an incentive for anybody to advocate taking the law into his own hands.
Let's talk about the domestic debt exchange program now. The deadline has expired, but we know that a lot of individual bondholders haven't signed on to the program. In fact, the individual pension bondholders pensioner bondholders have been picketing the Finance Ministry since Monday. We are told that they'll be heading there today as well. It's quite a sad scene, looking at some of them who are grey and old, holding placards and all that. The minister came out to meet them on Monday and explained the situation to them and said, look, Buame, namin sumin buao. But there are those who are saying that there is no point of Buame because government is not helping itself by cutting down expenditure, reducing the size of government, etc. One of the conveners for the individual bondholders from Senyor Husi is alleging that government is pressuring banks to coerce their customers to accept a domestic debt exchange. He said this is unethical and must be stopped immediately. We also know that government has given another window, even though the deadline expired, up to 4 p.m. on Friday. And this is because there were some technical glitches detected in the tendering process, according to the story in the Ghanaian Times. But what are your general concerns about the domestic debt exchange program and how it's been handled so far?
So my general concerns has been that the government has not been very honest with the people of this country. The government is dealing with the people of this country with a hard hand. The government, so many years ago, wanted patriotic Ghanaians to support it for the development of this country. People who had resources that they were not immediately in need of, gave those resources to government for the purposes of developing the country. The least that government can do is to recognize that these people served the country as patriotic citizens of this country. It has never been a criminal offense to give you what you have to the government for the purposes of developing your country on the promise that at a particular point in time, that offer, having been accepted, will be returned to you with interest. That's never been an offense. Now, government appears to be treating bondholders as if they were criminals. How do you tell bondholders?
Isn't that too extreme?
No, it's not extreme. I come to you. I need money. I've made some offers to you. You've accepted and made your money available to me. Without engaging you, I then tell you that I'm not going to give you interest.
Well, that has been revised. That has been revised.
Well, so how did the government go about even considering how to engage bondholders on the domestic debt exchange program? That is the question. Because you see, if you knew that your finances were bad, that there was a high probability that you would default on payment, what do you have to do?
Well, this government says, look, it's been thrown off course, COVID, the Russian-Ukraine war. And so this was not the plan. This was not what it expected. So the government says it finds itself in a fix. The finance minister says we're in a crisis. If we do not ensure that we get this deal by March, we will crash our economy. So, I mean, that has been the narrative of government over the years.
And you believe the government?
Well, that is what government says.
No, but you are an individual. You should believe the government or not believe the government. You believe the government?
That is what government says. And so it's appealing to individual bondholders. It's appealing
to... You believe a government that is going out on a borrowing spree, a government that was warned that the way and manner it was borrowing, it will make our debt unsustainable. You believe in a government that for all these years had not given the people of Ghana a debt sustainability report. You believe in a government that had gone to raid the stabilization fund and take monies because of COVID. You believe in a government that mismanaged the COVID funds of this country, that the government was taken by surprise. You mean the government did not know that the trajectory that it was pursuing will lead it to...
Well, the communication is that but for COVID and the Russian-Ukraine war, we won't be here.
Won't be where?
We won't be where we are with our economy. So
what is debt sustainability? Clearly means that when you borrow, you set aside monies to amortize the debt. What has Ukraine war got to do with it? Did we buy equipment from Ukraine that we cannot pay? We talk about COVID. Do you know the amount of money that we got from COVID and how that money was misused? In fact, the Auditor General's report is a report on how not to manage your accounts. And you still are citing that are reasons?
No, the excuse is that by government is that, you see, those were not normal times. And so
the normal times, because they were not normal times, you could pay as much as $120 million for vaccines and not receive them. Because we were not in normal times, you could pay monies without parliamentary approval to a sheikh in Dubai for Russian Sputnik V vaccines. You mean you could buy ambulances without, pay for ambulances without receiving them? You mean because we were in COVID, not in normal times, you could go and rent a property at Adaklu for 15 million Ghana cedis and renovate the property with 20 million Ghana cedis? Is that what you're saying? That not being in normal times means that you must be reckless?
It is what government is saying, not what I am saying. Interesting. So finally, on the domestic debt exchange program, the individual bondholders have been advised not to sign on to the program, but many of them are worried that it will not inure to their benefits. Others are also concerned about the terms. They say they want total exemption. It doesn't appear they're going to get it.
Well, I think that what is happening clearly shows that this government can take decisions. They don't know how to take decisions. And they are not only arrogant, they are also very intolerant. They are lazy sometimes. And the Auditor General's report shows that they are also corrupt. And so the people of Ghana do not believe them. Trust is an essential ingredient of governance in a country. The people of this country have lost trust in these people. And so they're not willing. They just want to see the thing put on the table and want commitments that will be binding on government because they've lost trust in the people.
We are wrapping up in 5 minutes. Let me just find out from you this story about Samuel Okudzeto-Ablakwa, who is a member of your own party, and his concerns about the Secretary to the Board of Trustees of the National Cathedral, Reverend Kwesi Boateng. You're also a lawyer. What are your, I don't know if you've gone through his concerns about the double identity, the issue with the tin and having multiple tins. There are those who try to use the law and in some cases, previous Supreme Court cases, to back why a person can have double identity.
The Supreme Court never said a person can have two IDs.
So I'm gonna allow you to respond to that.
Okay.
So what are your general concerns from the legal perspective?
Well, first of all, this case clearly calls for an investigation by the investigative bodies of this country, and especially the GRA must show extreme interest in this matter. Why will that person, the Board of Trustees, have two identification numbers, personal identification numbers, TIN numbers? Why? Why do we need TIN in the first place? Because the GRA wants to be able to track your transactions and be able to exact the appropriate tax that you ought to pay. That tax is revenue to the country. Why will a person have two TIN numbers that might make it difficult to track that person's transactions? What motivated him to go for two identities? Why? Now, So for me, there is more to it than meet the eye.
So you want further investigation?
Further investigations into why an individual will have dual personality. To what intent and purposes did he want to put that dual personality to use? And the Supreme Court never said you can have two identities. If those two identities are for a criminal purpose, then you will be held accountable.
Did you see the video of Samuel Okudzeto-Ablakwa seen? Well, we're told that he was kicking some writs that were given to him by bailiffs of the court. Have you seen that video?
I've not seen that video.
But how should court documents be treated?
That document, because Samuel Okudzeto is a member of parliament, the standing orders clearly provide a procedure by which a member of parliament can be served with a court proceeding.
So he's justified to
reject
it in whichever form.
You can't serve him personally. You need to serve the speaker. You can't serve him. And again, I talk about impunity. A court clerk should not put himself in a position that will embarrass his office as a court clerk. And every court clerk knows that the way to serve a member of parliament has been provided in the standing orders. So why will you want to circumvent that to serve Okudzeto personally? Why would you want to do that?
But could he have handled it better, also seeing that he's a member of parliament, other than kicking the document on the floor? So for you, there's no case of contempt.
What I'm saying is that Lord Denny has said that when the process is not backed by law, when the process is illegal, whether by substantive law or by procedural law, you have to treat that process with contempt.
Is Samuel Okudzeto-Ablakwa a lone ranger, or do you know if the party is backing him in this course?
Samuel Okudzeto is not a lone ranger. Samuel Okudzeto is a dutiful citizen of this country. Samuel Okudzeto is working to uphold the laws of the country. He's a member of parliament. And what concerns him should concern all of us.
He's a member of the NDC, and I'm asking if the party is supporting him in this course, or he's a lone ranger.
First of all, you must establish that the duty and work that Samuel Okudzeto is doing in parliament will ultimately inure to the benefit of Ghana. If Okudzeto's revelations is able to establish impropriety, whether financial or otherwise, and corrective measures are taken, Ghana benefits from that.
Lastly, is the party supporting him in this course? Do you know or not?
I don't know. I have no reason to believe that if the party can support him, they won't.
Thank you for your time this morning.
You're welcome.
Inusa Fuseni, I beg your pardon, is former Lands and Natural Resources Minister, also a member of the NDC. We've been talking about the NDC's leadership in Parliament. We've been talking about the ministerial reshuffling. We've also been exploring what the future of the party is with regards to who the flag bearer could be or should be, and what the stakes are for the NDC there. Hopefully we'll be interacting more with him on this show, even as the party prepares to go for that primaries to elect persons who will be on the ticket of the party during the parliamentary elections in 2024. Let me say thank you to you once again.
You're welcome.
Thank you also for doing the watching. Well, Ketsi EcoBank, the Pan-African Bank, we bring you AM Business. Today, some commercial and private drivers are unhappy about what they describe as a cumbersome vehicle insurance acquisition process.
There have been a lot of concerns with respect to insurance in the country, with its penetration as low as 2%. One of the commonest one had to do with motor insurance. We have most of these drivers complaining with respect to the processes that they would have to go through all the way to get motor insurance. I have some of the drivers here. Let me engage them to know what's really the situation on the ground. With respect to motor insurance, your view on it, Tiseng?
In my opinion, it depends on the insurance company the driver is registered with. I have no problem with my insurance company. They are always at your service when you call on them. They do not delay in paying your insurance claims when it matures. I do not agree with claims that motor insurance is of no benefit. This is because the comprehensive policy covers the driver in terms of motor accident, but the third-party policy does not.
Reports be say almost 82% of drivers are or more Ghana Air say there is no benefit with respect to motor insurance.
Comprehensive driver by third party.
As it stands now, there are numerous insurance companies in the country, so if your policy is not lucrative, you wouldn't get customers. I do not buy into the idea of digitalization motor insurance policies and its registration, since the manual registration is not giving us problems.
Right. So these are some concerns of some of the drivers here at the new plant station and Circle. Now, I would want to engage some more of these drivers to know what's their perspective, or what, according to them, what has been their issue with respect to insurance generally in the country. That is motor insurance for that matter. Let's get in touch with more of them. Drivers totally disagree with the assertion of John on the state of vehicle insurance in Ghana. Majority of the drivers, both commercial and private, say they do not see the benefit of vehicle insurance and want more to be done.
We as drivers do not benefit from the insurance we purchase because it is difficult to follow up with the insurance provider for assistance when there are problems with the vehicle, such as scratches or dings. It is exhausting to travel there and return without assistance. When you do receive assistance, however, you will have lost money because the cost of the transportation and other expenses spent as a result of requesting assistance from the insurance provider are almost equivalent to the amount of money you will receive from the insurance provider.
How does it be? And drivers, you like a crazy encounter. 23 as 18, 19. Who crowd assemble back crisis drivers the years in chain. And insurance and so no, and a board dean, comprehensive and a board dainty. Can't afford to 90 million. A third party, so yeah, assemble cry, yam.
The third party isn't helping. It has made the insurance very difficult and expensive for us to plead with the insurance company to reduce the price so the car owners can afford comprehensive for their cars.
And the insurance in the Baya net bono comprehensive no monte so na car for do into minya comprehensive. And more drivers in a passengers in car for no so Sabaya. What is say also bet me the amount. No.
Now, can a war comprehensive in your manoma? A bonnet to send how we understand
that part in India. Mrs. I mean, maybe I could do. You can round and insurance.
I don't know much about the third party, but I know that the comprehensive is very expensive for our cars now.
Yeah, okay, we buy 100 million. We buy comprehensive 100 million. I can't round say a bit more comprehensive.
That is basket.
Sprinter.
Sprinter 100 million.
Hey, Massa. Sprinter, over 100. In the buses, and the other bus, so called bus drivers, no, moment to me, so many moment to me, actually, Sprinter, horse, and no can. Alaji, a bus car, no crano. Last 2 years, insurance, no crime, business 60, 1 million, bro, almost 100 million. The comprehensive Sprinter, I do, sir.
Some link it to the delays in the payment of claims and to a larger extent the unwillingness of some insurance companies to pay their claims. According to them, they only show interest in vehicle insurance because it is mandatory and enforced by the police.
Ghana, the insurance, drivers. 7 problem po na insure the bia afi bia se wumpo a so utwa but ewuna utwa na unya asem na insurance form wa de.
When you have road insurance, you must renew it annually. However, if it expires and you renew it, then you get into trouble. The insurance companies won't help you, so there is no benefit of insurance in Ghana. This is so because you would have to run errands and be thrown around frequently until you get tired of it and cease doing so. They won't mind if you visit their offices every day. And when that happens, you feel weary and quit doing it. Some insurance providers offer assistance, others do not care about what you go through. We want the government to communicate with the insurance providers to assist the drivers and passengers. They ought to offer assistance.
Apart from Asah, just be organ be amwa. One is on Moncasa, no insurance, BBC will be a car, one passengers, no drivers in now.
Oh. This idea, Mancasa, the Miku Trebia, me boss, and you could try. This is a send a price, of course, look at cry there, but Michelle, ya, scar price, and let's say, and I say, because me boss, you could try. Oh, who said, insurance, no, driver, I said, driver, if insurance who are, and yet they have a kucha, one kucha police pressure or bet you. But so when your program now, our insurance officer be a mechanic problem, same.
Even if you do receive aid, you will still have lost money. The third party does not benefit financially. Since I haven't purchased insurance for a while now, I am unsure of the cost. If your insurance elapses and you don't renew, the police will arrest you. I agree that they make insurance online system, so it makes things easier and faster.
Yes. Oh yeah, you know, I just insurance, and the person why you know why you free. And you free now, up and down, we go across transport, we go so a long process.
Sir, police in who's insurance, roadway to grant anymore. Also, won't call you about you. And you went there, only by my second year, they only by my by second in your problem. Nabia, Obicran, the other book, I don't know some book for. We are being
provided stickers from the insurance companies, but our major problem is that whenever we get challenges with our cars, we expect the company to help us rather than taking the issue to the courts. We are not getting any benefit from the insurance, but rather the comprehensive. We plead with insurance companies to help car owners so we can have peace because there's no benefit we are getting from the insurance.
Insurance no thing and comprehensive no the insurance for no man no kranya adwuma so nipa no insurance no na bibia nsi aba 1 year 2 years na say obi di ni bibi bomu a also am bohwe na mo so mo nipa no so the also mo de ma no no de siesie ni car na say ono so onya hoto na boa kawra for no drivers no insurance no de fact so bia ni amai.
Paul expressed discontent with comprehensive insurance as it is expensive compared to income levels and wants more transformative dialogue for proper measures to push for insurance penetration. Right, so I would want to know what are some concerns with respect to insurance on your side?
My side is the increments. I think I hear the what do you call it? The insurance increase the fees. But we don't support it because we don't have any benefit. When your car gets accident, you don't have any benefit from insurance.
When you say you don't get any benefit from it, what do you mean? What are some of the things that has been happening?
When they hit your car, at that time, you negotiate. Our mind, we don't think about the insurance. Because at times, almost you see, some inconveniences, you encounter a lot of problems. Until we taxi, we don't have time to go there and negotiate one problem. So we need time. No negotiate, because you need time because of our job. Two, said the former medical kind say, aha no, we insurance there as from third party. Oko there lawyer be na we fa no. Only be and the whole thing say.
We as drivers do not benefit from the insurance we purchase because it is difficult to follow up with the insurance provider for assistance when there are problems with the vehicle such as scratches or dings. It is exhausting to travel there and return without assistance.
At times you cry police no cry no. At times because when you go there you face a lot of problems, questions. You a taxi, you don't have any time to go there.
Now, so you made mention of the fact that inconvenience. There are some concerns that they should digitize the operation. They should probably do it the computer way. We want it that way. Do you side with them, or you think the normal way is okay?
Oh, the computer is good. There is a modernization. Everything going up. It's good. But right now, it's a human being. By all means, you negotiate. We deal with people and talk. You don't have time. If you cry now, right now, say, be bad telephones in the air, you know, it's difficult for us.
When you do receive assistance, however, you will have lost money because the cost of the transportation and other expenses spent as a result of requesting assistance from the insurance provider are almost equivalent to the amount of money you will receive from the insurance provider. So even if you do receive aid, you will still have lost money. The third party does not benefit financially. Since I haven't purchased insurance for a while now, I am unsure of the cost. If your insurance elapses and you don't renew, the police will arrest you. I agree that they make insurance online systems, so it makes things easier and faster.
Go there. And the insurance there, they know it. We the taxis, we don't go there and negotiate.
Because they look down upon you guys, or what exactly?
Oh, not that. We don't have time. That's our problem. We don't have time to negotiate because you drive somebody's car, then you get accident, you go up and down. You get money. We can't get money. That's why we won't go there.
Now, so it appears that there is some sort of mixed reactions for these drivers with respect to motor insurance over here. Now, according to them, there is some sort of inconvenience that had to do with the processes of acquiring an insurance. I mean, that is motor insurance for that matter. Some are also saying, indeed, there's absolutely nothing wrong. But it appears majority of them seem not to be comfortable with how motor insurance is being done in this part of the world. For Joy Business, James Ishen.
Hello there. Thank you so much for staying on the AM show. Benjamin Akakpo joins me, and it's time to get interactive with you. Hi. It's as though we planned our costume today.
Yeah, mine is kind courtesy of the light situation. My lights went off, and I had to quickly do some pakpapa and. But yours, I don't know.
Black works like that. No, I mean, this was planned. So.
Okay.
Yeah.
But that was an interesting conversation with Inusa Fuseni on many fronts, especially on the Okudjetua Blakwa bits and other major issues that discussed. Inusa never fails, does he? He always delivers.
Right, he does. Yeah.
And I was just sharing, just to add on, it appears when the politicians move away from office, there's something more to them. I don't know, but they are able to appreciate things. He's always been one of those who can jab his own party and all of that, but especially when they're out of ministerial roles and parliament, they seem to have a different perspective, and it's refreshing. It's refreshing.
It'll be more refreshing if that outlook stays when they get into power, isn't it? Anyway, our first caller. Hello, Abendao. Good morning. Let's hear you.
Yeah, good morning, Benjamin Akakpo.
Good morning.
How are you doing?
We're doing well.
We're doing well.
Yeah, but Akakpo, I checked your combination this morning.
What did you say? You like it?
Yeah, I like it.
Thank you.
Yeah, anyway, I want to share my little thoughts on the ministerial reshuffle. I think there is nothing new that will come out of it. You're even expecting the shutting down of the government so that some ministers will be done away, then others being reshuffled, or possibly if new faces could have come for us to see if there could be a hope for us or a way for us. But with this balloon government, in fact, I think that this reshuffle, there is no much hope for us.
Thank you so much for sharing your thoughts with us up and down. And I think that for many people, if they wanted to see something bigger, advisedly, I use that word advisedly because there have been calls for the finance minister to be asked for them. That would have been the reshuffle.
I think, honestly, for some people, if all of this had not happened and yet Kenneth Oriata had moved on, that would have been a statement for them. But before we get to our next caller, you know, when Dr. Adomaku Kisi was here, the Member of Parliament for Anyaso, he made mention of the fact that he has heard from the grapevine within party circles that there could be another reshuffle in the offing, and that this is just like
to test
the
the
tip
waters
of the iceberg.
Interesting.
So we'll see whether that does happen.
Well, our next caller, hello, Akonoba, good morning, let's hear you.
Yeah, good morning, my lady and my gentleman. How are you?
We're well.
My brother. Yeah. You know what? I want to touch on two quick issues. My lady, you were saying something that is John Mahama. Let me tell you, John Mahama is the only savior in Ghana now. What has John Mahama said that hasn't come to pass? I'm telling you, what has John Mahama said in this country after he lost the election, the advice that he has given to this government, free advice, pro bono advice, that is not taking, that we are paying for it now. He told them they are borrowing. We will go to IMF. Bahamian said, no, I know better. Now we are in IMF. So John Mahama is now a savior. When you mention his name, you must mention it in a nice way. He's the Messiah in waiting, I'm telling you. No, now Bahamian, his name is like selling, has become like selling alcohol in an Islamic country, or even selling pork in an Islamic community. People don't like him at all.
I think those analogies you're drawing are a bit, and they may be offensive to some groupings.
Yes, so. Akonoba, I mean, we will leave it. He said I said something. I wish he would have been more specific about what I said.
I was also wondering what allusion you had made to the former
president.
Exactly,
which is attracting this kind of response. But thank you for calling us, Akonoba. I was only asking from Inusa Hussaini if he was the best the party could put forward. And his response was that in these circumstances, he is. Yeah. So I don't know which part of my conversation
I think it may have to do with that. And maybe some may have taken it as some sort of subtle slight against the former president. But that obviously wasn't the intent. I mean, it's a very fair question to find out whether this person...
If you have a problem with that question,
when you spoke to him
I
about
don't know.
maybe a running mate, you heard his comments on Nana Jane Opokwajiman. I mean, it's the party, it's what they have available at any given time. Look, the Kojo Bonsus are in there, the Dr. Dufours among others, but in the end, it's the party that will decide who has the greatest clout to lead the party to victory, which is what they want in 2024.
Right. Godwin from Mama Saman joins us. Hello, Godwin. Let's hear you. Hello, Godwin.
Do we have Godwin with us?
Yeah, good morning.
Good morning. Go ahead with your thoughts, Godwin.
I'm watching your program live from Mama Sama.
Great to hear.
Good morning.
Thank you.
It's very hard. It's very hard what we are going through in Ghana. The earthquake that is currently happening in Syria and Turkey. Sometimes I wish that could have happened in that Jubilee House Day, so that all our problems would have come to an end. We are really you, sir.
How do you feel that will resolve our problems as a country?
Oh, of course, because like sometimes it's just a logical thinking, common sense. Some of the things our leaders do, you just don't understand. Like how? Like,
But
Ghana is in a very big mess.
We appreciate your comments, but what's happening in Turkey and Syria, it's a very serious situation. We are told by the WHO that the death toll may rise to about 20,000. So I think that just to be sensitive also to those who are going through that, you don't want to just use that as an example and say you wish that on our leaders.
Plus, we may be ferocious in talking about the lapses in leadership, but some things you never wish on anyone.
Yeah, they're just too extreme. And also we are learning, that yesterday we had the good news that Christian Achu was found alive, but
though injured.
Yes, but now we're hearing from his agent and from the ambassador there that they get to locate him, and that's really disturbing. So we just still have our fingers crossed.
He was in hospital recently.
Exactly. And they've been trying to find out which hospital just so they could go see him. And, so we've got our fingers crossed.
But I think in this entire melee, the mess, it would be difficult because practically for some of the cities at the epicenter where he actually was, if the buildings have not fallen, they are practically shaky, they are unstable. So the work, and there were undercurrents, after the earthquake. So it's a pretty tricky situation.
So our prayers is that he will be found, and then we'll hear from him soon. But Christian is joining us from Kataman. So hopefully that's a good sign that Christian will be found soon. Let's hear you.
Hello, Bibi. Good morning.
Good morning.
How are you all?
We're doing well, thanks for asking.
I think he just called us BB. Bernice.
Yeah. It's called Bernice, and that's why I've called you of BB.
Yes, please. We perfectly understand.
We got it.
I think the president have done the replacement while people also are saying reshuffle. And the best that you think we have to say to Minister of Trade is the crime minister and the insulted minister. Especially when KTMO have to insult that our heads look like Ukono. And the deputy that is being appointed also have to cry to the whole nation to show that the government is not performing. And what is the reason why they are sending them? To go and cry or to go and insult us again? We are waiting for the 2024. Have a good day.
Thank you very much, Christian from Punkatamas.
But I think, sometimes when I actually brought it up in jest when I was having the conversation with Roxanne and Dr. Kisi. But the point to be made is, while people sometimes you must give them the benefit of the doubt and look past, some of these comments. In politics, lots of things happen. But would he be able to work? I think we should look at that.
The competence.
Will he deliver? And he's been minister before, so let's...
But he is really an interesting character, isn't he? Katie Hammond. Well, water is life. Awake is premium purified water treated through a strict purification process to ensure that every bottle on the market refreshes you better. We have the perfect sizes for all purposes: 330 ml and 500 ml bottles to fit your pockets and bags, 750 ml for heavy drinkers, and 1.5 liters for those who always want more. Our 19-liter jar bottles are ideal for homes and offices. All you must do now is drink Awake Purified Drinking Water wherever you go. Choose a bottle of Awake Purified Drinking Water today and get quality hydration. Awake Purified Drinking Water, one for life. Remember, for every bottle you purchase, an amount is donated to the National Cardiothoracic Center, another quality product from Casa Preco Company Limited. For bulk purchase, please call 026-235-1251. This advert is FDA approved.
And like I'll always say, this show is approved by not just the multimedia group, but by all of you. Thank you always for joining us. But before we go, Bernice, I'd like to celebrate Anthony Menu. He's one of our interns, helps out with the graphic design and all of that. Today is your birthday, Anthony. Keep being the fantastic person you are. Happy birthday.
Happy birthday. Yes, on that note, it's goodbye from us. We leave you with News Desk, which is coming up shortly at 10 a.m. Do stay with us. We are your most credible news source. Take care.